Chapter 488. Senior Brother Shindu, Teacher Randang. How do you think Teacher and the rest are doing now? Looking at the immortal slaying sword formation in front of them, the murderous aura was as black as ink. The four heavenly sword pillars were like pillars supporting the sky. The chilly murderous aura condensed a layer of frost in the surroundings. Black snowflakes fluttered everywhere as if they had arrived at the North Underworld. In particular, the will of killing immortals and gods, destroying heaven and earth, and rebuilding the universe. Although it was not targeted at the people on the periphery, it still made Guang Chengzi's heart palpitate. Junior brother, don't worry. Grandmaster once said that the immortal slaying sword formation can't be broken unless it is broken by the four sages. Today, including Teacher and Uncle Master, there are exactly four people. It just proves that breaking the formation is just a matter of time. It was unknown whether Xiandu was not worried or he was very shrewd, but he still looked calm and comforted him. That's right, especially the primordial cardinal treasure of the Lord of Tao and virtue, the Taiji diagram, which has the power to calm the earth, water, fire, and wind. It is the nemesis of all formations. Randang also nodded. Alas, the main reason is that the immortal slaying sword formation is too famous and too ferocious. Before breaking it, I have always been a little worried. Guang Chengzi also knew what was going on, but he could not help but be a little worried. As the saying went, if it did not concern you, it would cause chaos. This battle was related to the future of the clan of Chan. If they won, the winner would be the king. There was nothing to say. However, if they lost, they would really be doomed eternally. Not to mention that the great battle of God's investiture could not continue. The most important thing was that in order to defeat the Grandmaster of Heaven, the Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning did not even hesitate to invite a wolf into his house. This matter alone was enough to make the Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning and the clan of Chan unable to recover. As the eldest senior brother of the clan of Chan, Guang Chengzi had to think more. As for Fang Qingshan, he was not worried at all. He had foresight and knew that the immortal slaying sword formation would definitely be broken. Moreover, in the face of four sages, especially the sages who had supreme treasures such as the picture of Tai Chi, the mysterious yellow pagoda, and the Pangu's banner, if they still could not break the formation, then the immortal slaying sword formation would be too heaven-defying. It would not be one of the three great formations of desolation, but the first formation of desolation. If that was the case, then it would not be the immortal slaying sword formation that was bestowed to Tong Tian and Hong Jun that day. Fang Qingshan only glanced at it for a moment. Then he turned around and left. The reason for this was because they already knew the result. What was there to see? Secondly, his cultivation was too low. Even if he operated the Little Destiny spell and the Art of One Escape, he could not see anything. Moreover, the evil chi here was so strong. If he did not have defensive treasures and supernatural powers, he would not be able to hold on for long. How could Fang Qingshan do such a strenuous and fruitless time? If he had the time, he might as well go back and take a 7 cycles golden pill to polish his magic power, or comprehend Kong Xian's 5 elements Tao to improve his 5 elements Tao, or comprehend the auspicious clouds to improve the defensive power of the 5 elements halo and the all-heaven 5 elements flag, or refine his magic treasures. In any case, no matter what he did, it was better than staying here and waiting for the results. Not to mention what Fang Qingshan and the people outside the formation thought. In the immortal slaying sword formation, Tong Tian was fighting against 4 people alone, but he was not at a disadvantage at all. He was holding the purple lightning hammer in one hand and the fishing drum in the other. Lightning flashed, and the yellow bell was loud. And countless sword chi, which was full of destruction and contained the law of destruction, was separated from the 4 sharp swords punish, trap, slaughter, and jew, and rushed towards Lousy and the others. Hum, hum, hum. The sword chi let out a long cry, forming a storm of sword chi, sweeping across the world, as if the chaos was destroyed and the world was born. Especially the law of destruction destruction, destruction, and destruction contained in the sword Qi, which attacked the people's primordial spirits. Laozi was fine. He had the pagoda of heaven and earth, an acquired merit treasure, which could be said to be the world's first defensive treasure. Whether it was primordial spirit or physical body, as long as the pagoda stood on top of his head, he could really be untouchable. But primordial and the other two were a little embarrassed. Although they each had their own defensive treasures and magical powers, in the face of the immortal slaying sword formation, which specialized in killing, they were somewhat powerless. Whether it was the primitive, auspicious clouds of the heavens, the jade virtual apricot flag, the seven treasures banner, the Serera, or the Juni golden body and the green lotus flag, all of them were attacked by the evil Qi and were on the verge of collapse. Eldest senior brother, we can't delay any longer. Although they knew that the immortal slaying sword formation was not to be taken lightly, they did not expect that apart from Laozi, the three sages would not be able to gain any advantage when they attacked at the same time. It seemed that this formation could not be broken unless it was the four sages. After such a long delay, they were afraid that something unexpected would happen, so they hurriedly asked Laozi for help. Alas, Laozi let out a long sigh. Although he knew that there was no turning back once he stepped into the formation, he could not help but feel a little disappointed at this moment. For the friendship of Sanqing, for the future of the GS sect, and the celestial sect of wonders. As the eldest senior brother of the celestial sect of wonders, he lived up to his name. His cultivation was the highest among them. Since Primordial had invited the two from the west, he could already see some possibilities in the future. However, the arrow was already on the bow, and it had to be released. Laozi did not think too much. He took out the Taiji painting and shook his hand gently. There were thousands of rays of light and auspicious colors around him. The great Tao prophecy outside the painting surrounded it, and the Hongjun Tiandao talisman inside the painting was faintly visible. The five-colored light shone on the mountains and rivers, and the nine-colored auspicious aura shocked the universe. A white jade golden bridge connected the holy might of Hongjun Tiandao. For a moment, heaven and earth moved, and the sun and moon changed color. Fang Qingshan had used the Taiji painting before, but he could not even unleash a millionth of its power. Apart from not refining it and not having enough Dharma powers, there was also his understanding of the great Tao. At that moment, the Taiji painting was completely different in Laozi's hands. Once the golden bridge appeared, the entire array formation could not help but pause. All right, upon seeing that, the three of them could not help but be overjoyed. Without saying anything, they used all their strength, and each of them stabilized the sword gate. Guangqingzi, what are you waiting for? At that moment, the words of the heavenly lord of primordial beginning sounded in Guangqingzi's ears. His body trembled. Almost subconsciously, he stepped into the four sword gates at the same time with Yuding, Tai, and Shijingzi. Then, while the array formation was temporarily frozen, he shook his hand and a rune shone brightly. It carried the four swords away almost effortlessly. Once the four swords were removed, the array formation was immediately broken. Zhuanti even took the opportunity to strengthen the Grand Master of Heaven with the Divine Pestle. This isn't over. Seeing that the situation was over, the Grand Master of Heaven did not struggle. He just glanced at the four of them expressionlessly and got Duobao to put away the array diagram. Then, he turned around and returned to the Green Touring Palace with his disciples. Chapter 489. This time, I'm going to Quantai to gather all my old subordinates, raise 100,000 flags, and behead the King of Hell. If she wanted to recruit her old subordinates, Lady Nua only needed to wave the demon summoning banner lightly, and all the demons would be able to sense it. The treasure was a great treasure of the demons. In the past, Dijun and Tai had requested that almost everyone leave his soul imprint on it in order to better control the demons. Even the Kuan Peng was no exception. Its life and death were in the hands of others, and this was also the root of the disaster of the Great Shaman Demon War. The reason why Kuan Peng rebelled at the last moment Not only did it not continue to attack the Wu people at the risk of its own life, but it even took Di Jun's supreme treasure, the river map of Luo Shu, was because of this demon's summoning flag. If the primeval Lord of Heaven wanted to summon the 12 golden immortals, he only needed to let Guang Chengzi ring a golden bell in front of the Jade Mirage Palace. Therefore, Guang Chengzi was known as the bell-ringing golden immortal. This time, the immortal-slaying sword formation was a complete failure. Even the 4 immortal-slaying swords were taken away by Guang Chengzi and others. How could sect leader Tong Tian be reconciled to this? If there were only Laozi and Primordial Lord, it would be fine. But, for the sake of victory, Primordial Lord even invited Jinti to guide him, completely disregarding their friendship of many years. No one knew if sect leader Tong Tian was really angry or possessed, but he directly set up the Heavenly Flower Falling Flag on the Golden Turtle Island in the East Sea and summoned all the disciples of the tribe of Severity to practice the innumerable immortal formation, wanting to compete with Primordial Lord and the others again. The 10,000 Immortal Formation was originally the trump card of the leader of the male immortals, Tung Wang Kung. Tung Wang Kung, who is also one of the 8 immortals of the Upper Cave, Lu Dongbin, Chun Yang Zhenren. Speaking of which, Fang Qingshan had benefited a lot from him. It was a pity that the Tung Wang Kung was conferred the title of the male immortal by Daozu, causing public anger without him knowing it. Later, it was destroyed by the Eastern monarch Tai. And because Tung Wang Kung's power was in the East Sea, although his power was destroyed, his primordial spirit was saved by Laozi, and the myriad immortal arrays diagram was taken away by Tong Tian. Although this formation couldn't be compared to the 3 peerless formations, it was still considered a top-grade formation amongst the top formations. However, the power of this formation depended entirely on the number and strength of the people who set it up. The more people there were, and the stronger they were, the more powerful the formation would be. If there were tens of thousands of perfected golden immortals, or even primordial unity golden immortals, their power would be even greater than the immortal slaying sword formation. Unfortunately, although the Jie School was known as the 10,000 immortals, apart from the true heirs of the inner sect and a few talented outer sect experts, the rest of them had only learned some unorthodox methods. Their cultivation levels were not worth mentioning, and they were only around the heaven immortal level. Tong Tian was well aware of this, but he was still determined to set up this formation. Naturally, he had his trump card, 6 Soul Banner. Yes, it was the 6 Soul Banner. The banner was triangular in shape, and there were 6 streamers gently fluttering under the banner. Although it wasn't a Khanate cardinal treasure, it was a rare item from Hongjun Tiandao. This treasure was similar to Liu Ye's Nailhead 7 Arrows book. However, the Nailhead 7 Arrows book could only deal with 1 person at a time, while the 6 streamers of the 6 Soul Banner could directly write the names of 6 people and deal with 6 people at the same time. The Nailhead 7 Arrows book could at most deal with perfected golden immortals, but it was somewhat beyond its power to deal with the Sage-to-Be. Even if it was effective, the effect was not that obvious. But the 6 Soul Banner was different. It was quite effective even against sages. This was also the reason why Tong Tian still had the confidence to set up the innumerable immortals formation after the immortal slaying sword formation was broken. Repairing the plank road on the surface, crossing the Chun Song in secret. On the surface, he was setting up the innumerable immortals formation to make a last-ditch struggle. But in secret, he was using the 6 Soul Banner to curse the 4 of them. As long as this treasure worked, the 4 of them would be seriously injured. Even if the Jie School lost in the end, they would at least be dragged down with them. This was Tong Tian's real thought. It was possible to destroy the Jie School. Even if the Jie School didn't want them, Tong Tian would break their teeth and splash their blood. Unfortunately, as the saying went, man proposes, God disposes. It was a beautiful dream, but before the dust had truly settled, everything was subject to change. Tong Tian had never thought that one day his disciple would betray him. It should be known that Tong Tian did not treat all his disciples equally, but at least in the inner sect, he could be said to trust the talented disciples wholeheartedly and do his best to cultivate them. But what did he get in the end? Betrayal. This kind of blow was probably no less than the Yuanshu Tianzuan leading a wolf into the house and colluding with outsiders to deal with him. As for Fang Qingshan, since the immortal slaying sword formation, Fang Qingshan found an opportunity to leave the main group, using the excuse of closed-door training. On one hand, he really wanted to strike the iron while it was hot to comprehend more. On the other hand, he knew that after the immortal slaying sword formation, it was not the end. There was still the innumerable immortals formation waiting for them. Although the innumerable immortals formation was not as good as the immortal slaying sword formation, it was more dangerous for them. After all, the main combat power of the immortal slaying sword formation was the sages. At most, only Guang Qingzi and a few others could use their swords at the critical moment. However, the 10,000 immortals array was different. Not only sages, but even disciples had to participate. Fang Qingshan remembered that the 12 golden immortals, Yin Zhongzi, Xuandu, and the others were all fine. The ones who were in trouble were all disciples of Jie School, but it was better to be safe than sorry. He was only an earth immortal. Although he had some tricks up his sleeves, who could guarantee that he could escape unscathed in a chaotic battle? The disciples of the tribe of Severity had nothing else but a large number of people and strange tricks. Therefore, to avoid the innumerable immortal array, Fang Qingshan used seclusion as an excuse to leave the West Qi army and return to the Wui Mountain Grotto Heaven. The reason why Fang Qingshan had returned to this place was not to find a quiet place for his secluded cultivation, nor was it to covet this cave and the high-grade, innate spirit root money tree. Of course, there was no point in coveting it. He couldn't move the heavenly abode away, nor could he. It was the same for the money tree. It cannot be shaken easily. Once it was shaken, the entire paradise would become unstable. This was one of the 36 grotto heavens of Taoism. It had a wave of providence from the mystic gate. If something went wrong, there would be a huge amount of negative karma. The reason why he came back was only because there were two people here, Qiongqi and Bo Yikao. As a teacher, he had to teach and answer questions. Since he had taken Bo Yikao as his disciple, although it was for the sake of providence and his motive was not pure, he would not leave him alone. Because he had no time, he sent Qiongqi over to teach Bo Yikao. In this grotto heaven, Fang Qingshan also gave it to Bo Yikao. Since he could not take it away, he might as well leave it for his disciple. It was also a token of his sincerity as a teacher. And today, apart from taking Qiongqi away, he came back to bid farewell to Bo Yikao. Once the 10,000 immortal array was broken, Jie School and Chaoga were finished. This also meant that it was time for him to leave. Chapter 490. Teacher, why are you here? But Shichi has already defeated Chaoga. Has the great God-confirmant tribulation ended? In the Wui Mountain Grotto Heaven, Bo Yikao was also surprised to see Fang Qingshan suddenly appear. Bo Yikao really respected Fang Qingshan from the bottom of his heart. If it weren't for him, he would have walked back and forth on the road to hell. If it weren't for him, his father might not have been able to escape from Chaoga. More importantly, not only did he avoid the death of his son, but he also avoided the misfortune of being eaten by a tiger. In addition, Fang Qingshan had accepted him as a disciple and asked Qiongqi to teach him carefully. He even gave him the Dishi scepter and the Star Emperor Dragon Bed, two treasures that seemed to be very suitable for him. Fang Qingshan had given Bo Yikao a new lease of life. There was no sun or moon in the mountains, and 1,000 years had passed in the world. Ever since Shichi attacked the Shang dynasty, Bo Yikao had been sent to the Wui Mountain Grotto Heaven by Fang Qingshan. He was taken care of by Qiongqi and lived a completely isolated life. Firstly, it was to cultivate well. Secondly, it was not good to expose his identity before the end of the great God-confirmant tribulation. After all, he was already a dead person in everyone's eyes. If Bo Yikao did not die, GFA could not become a martial king. What was the point of appearing again? Bo Yikao did not live up to everyone's expectations. In just a few years, he had advanced by leaps and bounds from immortal. If it weren't for Fang Qingshan's suppression, he would have broken through to become an individual immortal and caught up with his teacher. The reason for this was naturally because a tall building was built from the ground up. The more solid the foundation, the smoother the road in the future would be. More importantly, the risk factor of going through the tribulation was too high. Fang Qingshan had a deep understanding of this. One had to know that back when Fang Qingshan was undergoing his cataclysm, the cataclysm had only just begun, and it had already triggered a huge change. Even with Fang Qingshan's capabilities, he nearly failed miserably. Now that he was at the climax of the cataclysm, if he were to undergo his cataclysm now, wouldn't it be a disaster? At that time, Bo Yikao did not die in the hands of Daji, but was struck to death by lightning instead. In the end, his soul still had to walk through the investiture of the gods. That would really be a laughingstock. No, but it won't be long. Fang Qingshan answered with a smile, and then told him some of the things that happened after Bo Yikao came to Wui Mountain, and then looked at his cultivation and could not help but nod with satisfaction. As expected of one of the future 6 Imperials, the North Pole Emperor, luck favored him, and his cultivation speed was extremely fast. He wasn't inferior to Nejia, Yang Jian, and the others. "Did you come to see me?" Bo Yikao said happily. "Yes, but I'm also here to say goodbye." Fang Qingshan said. "Farewell." Bo Yikao was puzzled. "Yeah." Fang Qingshan sighed. Although he didn't spend much time with Bo Yikao, and his purpose when he took him in as a disciple was not pure, he was still the first disciple after his cultivation had improved greatly. Bo Yikao also adhered to the idea of a teacher for a day, a father for life, and more or less had some feelings for him. Now that he was about to leave the world of gods, he didn't know when he would see him again. "I'm going to go into seclusion, and I don't know how long this time, so I can't tell you first." Fang Qingshan didn't say that he was going to leave this world. He lied and said that he was going to go into seclusion. This time, Bo Yikao understood that for cultivators, a seclusion for tens of thousands of years was not considered long. Teacher is the direct disciple of the Lord of Tao and virtue from the Ren School. If you have any problems that you can't solve in the future, just go to the Great Red Sky to find your eldest uncle master or grandmaster. We won't cause trouble, but we're not afraid of trouble. Fang Qingshan said again. "Huh? Teacher is the direct disciple of the Ren School?" Hearing this, Bo Yikao was shocked. He was no longer a little ignorant person who didn't know anything. In addition to cultivation, Qiangqi also explained all kinds of strange stories to Bo Yikao, which could be used to popularize or relieve boredom. He knew that being a disciple of a saint was the most honorable status. Among the sects, the Jie school was the easiest to enter, and the Ren school was the hardest to enter. It was easy to enter because as long as one was human and did not join other sects, one could be said to be a disciple of the Ren school. The hardest to enter was because the most demanding Chan school also had 12 golden immortals, while Ren school only had Xian. Dewey didn't expect that his teacher was the only direct disciple of the Ren school, which was really surprising and delightful. Fang Qingshan hid in the Wui Mountain grotto heaven. He didn't go into seclusion, but just meditated and preached to Bo Yikao. Then, he waited for an opportunity. As for what the opportunity was, it was simple. It was naturally the last great opportunity when he was in the 10,000 Immortal Array. Before the 10,000 Immortal Array was broken, one of the 4 intersect disciples of Jie School, the goddess of Turtle Spirit, was captured. He wanted to bring her back and raise her in the 8 Treasures merit pool in the Western sect. It was unknown if it was because he still had things to deal with in the 10,000 Immortal Array, or if he could not wait any longer and wanted to create an established fact. In any case, after capturing the goddess of Turtle Spirit, he used the 12th grade merit Golden Lotus to suppress her. Then he asked a young novice monk beside him to return to the Meru Mountain Paradise with the 12th grade Golden Lotus and throw the goddess of Turtle Spirit into the 8 Treasures merit pool. However, something unexpected happened during this process. As a result, not only did the goddess of Turtle Spirit die tragically, she did not even manage to enter the god role. She even caused the 12th grade Golden Lotus in the Western sect to lose 3 grades. Fang Qingshan was waiting for that opportunity. One had to know that not only was there a 3rd grade merit Golden Lotus, But there was also the goddess of turtle spirits, supreme grade, connate numinous treasure, the sun and moon pearl, the goddess of turtle spirits, turtle shell, and the first mosquito. Putting aside everything else, just the mouth of the first mosquito could bite through a 12th-stage golden lotus. It was a priceless treasure. With so many treasures, how could Feng Qingshan not be envious? Of course, after getting so many treasures, Feng Qingshan could not stay in the world of gods anymore. Fortunately, his time was almost up, so he took the opportunity to leave. Just as Feng Qingshan was looking forward to the stars and the moon, the opportunity finally came. When he left Shichi, he had already made preparations. He specially enlightened a soldier and asked him to keep an eye on the White Lotus boy who was receiving the sage. Sure enough, not long after the 10,000 immortal array opened, the sage came out, summoned the White Lotus boy, and handed him the 12th grade golden lotus. Then the White Lotus boy flew toward the western paradise. Coming. When Feng Qingshan received the message, he stood up and waved at Xiongqi, keeping him in the Meru space. Then he used the greater teleportation technique and disappeared in an instant. He only left a sentence for Bo Yikao in the Wui Mountain Grotto Heaven. I have something to do, so I'll leave first. If there's anything you can't solve in the future, go to the Great Red Sky to find your Grandmaster and Uncle Master, or go to the Tishida Palace to find Taishang Laojun. Chapter 491. On the way from the 10,000 immortal array to Nirvana. Child White Lotus rushed towards Mount Meru with the 12th grade golden lotus in his hand. Neither he nor Jie-in was worried that anything would happen. After all, the one imprisoned in the 12th grade golden lotus was the goddess of turtle spirit. Not to mention Jie School, Chan School and Rin School were also trapped in the 10,000 immortal array. Jie School was about to collapse. The Buddhist sect was about to prosper. Who would offend the Buddhist sect for the goddess of turtle spirit? As for the 12th grade golden lotus, it was the treasure that the Buddhist sect used to suppress the luck. It was also the symbol of the Buddhist Tao. Even Laozi and the others did not dare to covet it, let alone others. Therefore, Jane dared to hand it over to Child White Lotus and let him bring it back to Nirvana. It was a pity that the goddess of turtle spirit was fated to have such a calamity with the 12th grade golden lotus. As for the imperfection of the Buddhist sect, it had existed since the establishment of the sect. Sanqing had established the sect smoothly and had the blessing of heaven-opening merit. He would become a saint after establishing the sect. As for Jie-in, Zhuanti and Xiao-in could not do it. Although they had great wisdom and created the Great Wish technique, it was only a trick. The Buddhist sect did not have any treasures and could not suppress the luck. Now that they had suffered such a calamity and were about to prosper, if not for the great perseverance of Jie-in and Juni, they would have collapsed long ago. On the way back to Mount Meru with the 12th grade golden lotus, when Feng Qingshan rushed over from the Wui Mountain Grotto Heaven, a tall and thin Taoist in a black Taoist robe with a sinister face sneaked out of the blood sea quietly. The blood sea was formed by the combination of the filthy blood from Pan Gu's navel and the most filthy things in the world, killing intent, tribulation chi, and so on. It was equivalent to desolation, digesting, and carrying all negative things. The blood sea gave birth to a great god named Mingi. He was of the same generation as Sanqing, and was also a guest of the Purple Cloud Palace. He sat on the 12th grade Hellfire Red Lotus and was born with the 2 killing swords, Yuan-Tu and Avicii. He was born with great mystical abilities. He was known as the Blood Sea, and Mingi would not die. Apart from his realm and combat power, he was similar to a saint. However, Mingi was not the only one in the Blood Sea. The Taoist who had just come out of the Blood Sea was another living being born in the Blood Sea. The first mosquito that opened the sky. In desolation, those who were tainted with the title of number 1, regardless of whether they were innate or acquired, would all have great luck. They were all extraordinary, such as Kong Xian, the 10,000 generations 1 root tea, and this mosquito Daoran. Unfortunately, just like Kong Xian, mosquito Daoran was born at the wrong time. Although Kong Xian was the crown prince of the Phoenix clan, the Phoenix clan had already declined when he was born. What about Mosquito Daoran? He and Mingi both came from the Blood Sea. Logically speaking, their relationship should be the same as that of Sanqing, Niuwa and Fushi, and Jian and Juani. They should be brothers of the same origin. Unfortunately, the entire Blood Sea had already been refined by the Netherworld River by the time it had gained sentience. As the saying goes, a mountain cannot contain two tigers, not even a male and a female. The Great Tao walks alone. The Blood Sea was the foundation of the Netherworld River. It would never allow any accidents to happen to it. If it discovered Mosquito Daoran, it would immediately return to its origin and become the origin of the Blood Sea. Therefore, ever since Mosquito Daoran gained sentience, he had been playing hide-and-seek with the Netherworld River all the time. He hid from place to place, afraid that he would die if he was discovered by the Netherworld River. His only way out was to leave the Blood Sea as soon as possible. Unfortunately, the Sea of Blood had been refined, and the slightest movement could alarm him. Therefore, Mosquito Daoran did not dare to act rashly. He hoped for the stars and the moon every day. He hoped that the Netherworld River would leave the Blood Sea so that he could escape from this place. However, ever since the Purple Cloud Palace, the Netherworld River had become a homebody and never left his house. This made Mosquito Daoran so worried that his hair turned white. He could not escape, nor could he cultivate. This was because regardless of whether it was the fluctuation of spiritual energy caused during cultivation or the aura after cultivation, it could alarm the Netherworld River. Fortunately, the heavens did not disappoint those who worked hard. The opportunity that Mosquito Daoran had finally arrived. Although the Great War of the Gods was not as intense as the Primordial Dragon and Phoenix and the Primordial Witch and Demon Beast, which had swept through the entire desolation, it was much more tragic. After all, the high-end combat power involved 5 sages. Heaven and earth were shattered. Such an immeasurable tribulation was a huge burden on the Blood Sea. Even the Netherworld River did not dare to let his guard down. He wholeheartedly operated the Blood Sea formation to digest the negative effects of the tribulation. This gave Mosquito Daoran a chance to escape. The Netherworld River, the Blood Sea? Humph! I will take back everything that belongs to me sooner or later. Mosquito Daoran turned around and looked at the surging blood waves. A trace of violence flashed in his eyes. Once he left the Blood Sea, he would be free to soar in the vast sky and fish in the vast sea. He, Taoist one, would be like a trapped dragon rising to the sky. The Netherworld River had been born earlier than him, owned the Blood Sea, and even caught up with the Purple Cloud Palace. However, Mosquito Daoran did not think that he could not catch up with the Netherworld River. And all of this confidence came from his mouth parts. It could devour heaven and earth and destroy everything. He did not need to cultivate or comprehend the Tao. As long as he kept devouring, his cultivation would continue to grow without any bottlenecks. Once he grew up, the entire desolation would tremble. When his cultivation reached the peak of the Sage-to-Be peak, he could devour a primordial treasure and become a zenith heaven golden immortal. Hongjun Tiandao value balance. This was probably one of the reasons why Hongjun Tiandao suppressed him from coming into the world. Putting all this aside, when Mosquito Daoran left the Blood Sea, the suppressed fierceness in his body immediately broke out. He wanted to devour, 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 and devour again. He wanted to reach the sky in one step, then return to the Blood Sea and settle the score with the Netherworld River. Unfortunately, as soon as he left the Blood Sea, he was hit in the head. In the innumerable immortal formation, the divine power of the 5 sages filled the entire desolation. That aura made Mosquito Daoran not dare to take another step. Although it was a good time to fish in troubled waters, once he was exposed, he would definitely die. Seeking advantages and avoiding disadvantages, Mosquito Daoran moved in the opposite direction, far away from the sages. He happened to meet Child White Lotus. This made him overjoyed, because he had already smelled the scent of delicious food, the goddess of turtle spirit and the 12th grade Golden Lotus. However, because he was suppressed by the Netherworld River, Although he was born after the great sorcerer and demon war, his cultivation was not very powerful. Therefore, he did not dare to alert the enemy. Fortunately, Child White Lotus was not worried that someone would provoke him. As a result, he let his guard down and gave Mosquito Dowrin an opportunity. Entering the 12th stage Golden Lotus and looking at the sealed goddess of turtle spirit, Mosquito Doran's eyes suddenly lit up. He wanted to shout that the heavens were helping him. Without much time to think, he stretched out his mouthpiece and directly inserted it into the goddess of turtle spirit's body through her turtle shell. In an instant, a billowing force of origin flowed into Mosquito Doran's body through his mouthpiece. His cultivation base was also rising rapidly. Chapter 492. Heaven Immortal, Perfected Immortal, and Mystic Immortal were like bubbles that popped with a poke. When it came to Golden Immortal, he stopped for a long time. A Golden Immortal, or Undying, could be considered an expert at this point in time. After all, it was not the time of the ancient Magi Demon War. Golden Immortals were like dogs, and Zenith Heavens were everywhere. Think about it. Even the disciples of the three sects, other than the most outstanding ones, were mostly at grand unity. However, the bottleneck of Golden Immortal did not stop him for long. It was just that it was not as fast as breaking through to Mystic Immortal. Early stage Golden Immortal, mid stage, late stage, and peak. At this time, the surging river finally calmed down. It was replaced by a bright moon shining on the river. The breeze blew gently, and the water was calm. In the end, Mosquito Doran's cultivation stopped at the peak of Golden Immortal. Using the cultivation of the goddess of turtle spirit, who was in the late stage of the Zenith Heaven, as a sacrifice in exchange for the cultivation of a peak Golden Immortal was simply shocking. Of course, this was only the dermic powers. It was like consuming the 9 revolutions golden pill. Although the realm had reached, it was just a forceful transformation. On this point, he was even worse than Wu people. After all, Wu people did not cultivate their essence souls. It was fine as long as their blood was abundant. On the other hand, Mosquito Dowrin still needed to spend some time to adapt to the realm, essence soul, and Tao. Only by growing in all aspects could his combat power catch up. Otherwise, he could only use dermic powers to suppress others. He would be very clumsy. It was fine if he encountered ordinary people, but if he encountered powerful ones, he would probably hurt himself before hurting others. Power, this is power. Feeling the surging dermic powers in his body, Mosquito Dowrin was not worried at all. He had already stood at this height. If he were to adapt, it would be a matter of being in a commanding position. The most terrifying thing was not being able to reach that realm and struggling bitterly. Hihi-mingi, just you wait. I'll go back to find you soon. Mosquito Dowrin laughed strangely. The pitiful goddess of turtle spirit was one of the 4 inner sect disciples of GS School. She had cultivated hard for many years, but in the end, she ended up like this. She could not even enter the god role and reincarnate. Time was fate. All that was left was a sun and moon pearl and a turtle shell, proof that she had once walked through the world. For Mosquito Dowrin, devouring was not a taboo at all. Regardless of whether it was a living creature or a spiritual treasure, as long as it had source energy, it would be fine. Therefore, logically speaking, he should be devouring the sun and moon pearl and the holy mother of turtle spirit's turtle shell. Then, he would devour the 12th stage Golden Lotus, although it was also a top-notch Khanate numinous treasure. However, it was clear that the sun and moon pearl was not on the same level as the 12th stage Golden Lotus. Among the Khanate spiritual treasures, the 12th grade Golden Lotus was one of the top 10 5 directions lotus seats. It was the existence closest to a Khanate cardinal treasure. Although the Sun Moon Pearl was also a top-notch Khanate spiritual treasure, it was probably inferior to the primordial chaos Golden Dipper. After all, it still had the title of the first toilet in the world. If he wanted to compare it to a 12th stage Golden Lotus, he would have to use the sun and moon wheels instead. After all, this was a set of combination numinous treasures, each of which was a top-grade Khanate numinous treasure. He didn't know if Mosquito Doran's ego was inflated or if he was destined to face this calamity. Instead of devouring the sun and moon pearl, he went straight for the 12th stage golden lotus. However, Mosquito Dowrin was really talented. He actually made him bite the 3rd stage golden lotus. Good heavens! Only then did White Lotus Child realize that something was wrong. Not only was the Holy Mother of Turtle Spirit only left with a turtle shell, but even the 12th stage golden lotus, the Western sex treasure that stabilized the light of providence, was only left with the 9th stage. At that moment, he was dumbfounded as he stared blankly at everything in front of him. He was extremely afraid. At the same time, in the myriad immortal array, Saint Jiayin was fighting with Tong Tian. Suddenly, his mind shook. Then he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood essence. He staggered and almost fell to the ground. As the saying went, take advantage of his illness to kill him. Although sect leader Tong Tian didn't know what happened, he would not let go of such a great opportunity. He directly hit Jiayin's back with a purple lightning hammer, causing his mouth to emit samadhi true fire. Senior brother, what's wrong with you? At that moment, Zhuani rushed over and quickly stopped sect leader Tong Tian. What about Jiayin? He didn't pay attention to Zhuani at all. At that moment, his heart was bleeding. His hatred for Mosquito Taoist could not be washed away even with all the water in the world. The West and Buddhism were not as good as the East. They didn't have any precious treasures. Now, the only golden lotus of merit had broken through to the 3rd stage. How could he not be angry? At that moment, Jay no longer had the compassion of Buddha. There was only Wisdom King's angry eyes. He wanted to grind Mosquito Doran's bones to ashes. Ha! Jain wanted to kill Mosquito Dowrin and then return him to the origin to make up for the 12th stage golden lotus, but sect leader Tong Tian didn't want to do that. Ever since the immortal slaying sword array was broken, there was no longer a smile on sect leader Tong Tian's face. At that moment, although he didn't know what happened to Jain, he was sure that it must be an urgent matter. Didn't he see that he was in a trance and vomited blood? In that case, all the more he couldn't let him go. The enemy of the enemy was a friend, and the enemy's bad things were good things for him. Anyway, the GS school was finished. Sect leader Tong Tian's current thought was that as long as the other party didn't have a good time, he would feel at ease. Therefore, he went all out. With the heavenly flower enchantment flag above his head and the purple lightning hammer, fishing drum, and divine Qingping sword in his hands, he attacked Zhuani without a care. Zhuanti's cultivation was the lowest among the 6 sages. He couldn't stop them at all. Although Laozi and Primordial Being were working with Zhuani, they didn't care about the matter at that moment. Naturally, Jiayin was delayed. Sect leader Tong Tian, you're courting death. Jiayin was seething with anger. He was so angry that 1 Buddha came into being and 2 Buddhas ascended to heaven, but there was nothing he could do. Fortunately, there was still his essence spirit imprint in the 12th stage golden lotus. Dying. Although Mosquito Dowrin was talented, he began to have indigestion after swallowing the 3rd stage golden lotus. Following that, Jiayin emerged from the 12th stage golden lotus and slapped Taoist one with his palm. Damn it! Mosquito Dowrin didn't expect that the 12th stage golden lotus would be broken by him, but Jiayin could still use something to show himself. He didn't have time to think. Seeing that Jiayin's palm was about to fall, he opened his mouth and spat. A black flag rose up and fluttered in the wind. The flag was 1 foot and 7 inches long, and there was a faint sound of waves. It blurred the universe, covered the sky, repelled all evil, and was impenetrable. As soon as the flag was unfolded, countless black lotuses fell. Mystic Essence Water Control Flag. Jane couldn't help but exclaim when he saw this scene. Yes, this was the last of the Khanate 5-direction flags, the Northern Mystic Essence Water Control Flag. It was also one of Mosquito Doran's precious treasures. Chapter 493. Although the Blood Sea was the dirtiest place in the world, and although it was not as dangerous as the 33 heavens and the chaos, ordinary Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals were not willing to come here. However, to be honest, this place was indeed a treasure land. Not to mention that the underworld would be established here in the future, and one of the 3 realms, the underworld, would be carried by it. merely in terms of the quantity and quality of the treasures produced here. It truly caused one to drool with desire. The 12th grade red lotus of fire of the Nether River, one of the Khanate 5-direction lotus seats, was a top Khanate spiritual treasure. The Yuantu sword, the Avicii double swords, was the top killing treasure of the desolation. Apart from the 4 immortal swords, in terms of killing, even the Qingping sword was a little inferior. The blood-colored Azura flag was also a top defensive spiritual treasure. Some people even speculated that it was actually one of the Khanate 5-direction flags, the northern Xianyuan water-controlling flag. But now it seemed that this was not the case because the Xianyuan water-controlling flag was in the hands of Mosquito Dauren. The defensive power of the Khanate 5-direction flags in the desolation was probably only below the Tai Chi diagram, the Eastern Emperor Bell, and the mysterious Yellow Pagoda. Even the 5-direction lotus seats were comparable. Although it was a sage, it was only a primordial spirit imprint. And because the 12th grade golden lotus was damaged, the imprint was incomplete and it could not fully exert its strength. Boom! Under the palm, the sky collapsed and the earth collapsed. The entire space directly exploded, forming a black hole. All the falling lotus flowers of the Xianyuan water-controlling flag were swallowed. Even the Xianyuan water-controlling flag itself dimmed and fell to the ground. Although the Xianyuan water-controlling flag resisted for a while, it could not completely divert the attack. The remaining power of the palm did not diminish, and it was about to fall on Mosquito Dauren. If this happened, although Mosquito Dauren was a mutated species, and the transformation of the primordial fierce beast blood-winged black mosquito, his soul would probably be destroyed. In the blink of an eye, buzz! At this moment, Mosquito Dauren opened his mouth again, and there was a burst of golden light. There were endless auspicious clouds, endless lotuses, and endless relics blooming. It was the 3rd grade golden lotus that Mosquito Dauren had devoured earlier. Although Mosquito Dauren had bitten through the 12th stage golden lotus, because of indigestion, he didn't have the time to transform his origin source to increase his cultivation. At this moment, Chaha had saved his life. Bang! With a loud bang, the Buddha's palm landed on the 3rd grade golden lotus. The vacuum shattered and turned into dust. Everything was blazing white, as if a sun had risen within it. It was so dazzling that people couldn't open their eyes and see the situation clearly. When everything returned to normal, the connection disappeared, and the lotus throne fell. Mosquito Dauren was also half paralyzed. Although he had the Mystic Essence Water Control flag and the 3-grade Lotus Throne for defense, and although it was only a damaged mark, Mosquito Dauren's cultivation was still too low. Fortunately, he managed to deal with it. Looking at the silly white lotus boy on the side, Mosquito Dauren's eyes flashed fiercely. He opened his mouth and spat out a pitch-black scythe, exuding the aura of death. It gently slashed at White Lotus Boy and instantly took his life. The Death Scythe, its killing power was definitely not inferior to Yuantu's. The Avicii double swords, like the Mystic Essence Water Control flag, were Mosquito Dauren's accompanying treasures. Connection? Sage? One day, I will let you know the consequences of offending me, Mosquito Dauren. Watching the Death Scythe cut through White Lotus Boy's throat and turned into a pile of bones, Mosquito Dauren's eyes flashed scarlet. He licked his lips and muttered to himself, "Unfortunately, there is no more chance." At this moment, a voice like that of the King of Hell rang in Mosquito Dauren's ears. Who is it?" Mosquito Dauren was shocked. He did not expect that there was someone else in the dark, and that the person had already reached his side. He was about to take out the Mystic Essence Water Control flag, but the Mystic Essence Water Control flag bounced on the ground and did not rise into the air to defend. Only then did he remember that it had just been connected and seriously damaged. The primordial spirit imprint inside had been broken. If he wanted to use it again, he needed to refine it again. Before he could think too much, he felt dizzy and his vision went black. When he opened his eyes again, he was already in a different world. Mosquito Dauren was shocked. He knew that he should have been taken into a Sumeru space like a magic treasure. He subconsciously held the death scythe in his hand, as if it could give him a little sense of security. He looked around and saw a towering ancient tree towering between the heavens and the earth, blocking out the sun and the sky. Under the tree, there were two people looking at him with smiles on their faces. They were naturally Fong Qingshan and Qiongqi. He came a little late and felt a holy aura from afar, which gave him a fright. He quickly used the great stealth technique, concealed his aura, and hid at the side. The most important thing was not that he was afraid of being seen by the sages, but he was afraid that if the sages came, his efforts would be in vain. Fortunately, the connection was delayed by Tong Tian, and Laozi was originally watching from the sidelines. What came was only the original half-imprint of the 12th stage Golden Lotus. In addition, because of the matter with Mosquito Dowrin, he did not pay attention to his surroundings at all. After his power was exhausted, he dissipated in the space. Mosquito Dowrin was also seriously injured, which really helped Fong Qingshan a lot. After all, if Mosquito Dowrin was not seriously injured by the connection, with his current cultivation, 2 treasures for attack and defense, and his supernatural power, Fong Qingshan and Qiongqi might not have been able to take him down. Even if they took him down, the price they had to pay would probably be unbearable for Fong Qingshan. But now, the Sandpiper and Clam were in a stalemate. Fong Qingshan directly used the innate small world and transferred Mosquito Dowrin in. Who are you? Where is this place? And why did you plot against me? Seeing Fong Qingshan and Qiongqi, Mosquito Dowrin's eyes flashed with a fierce light. I am Fong Qingshan, and this is Qiongqi. This is my small world. As for why we plotted against you, it's because an innocent man will get into trouble because of his wealth. Fong Qingshan said with a faint smile. You're courting death. Hearing Fong Qingshan's words, Mosquito Dowrin could no longer hold back the ferocity and hostility in his heart. He raised the death scythe in his hand and slashed at Fong Qingshan and Qiongqi. Go! Fong Qingshan flicked his finger, and a copper coin with wings flew out and stuck to the death scythe. Pa! It immediately fell to the ground. How was this possible? Mosquito Dowrin immediately widened his eyes. His essence spirit jumped, trying desperately to communicate, but there was no response. Fong Qingshan and Qiongqi looked at each other and smiled. Following that, they pointed at each other and said the word fix. The entire small world began to move. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, ice, wind, lightning, light, darkness, time, space, creation of the 5 elements. The boundless laws manifested, turning into chains that bound Mosquito Dowrin, turning him into a cocoon. Then the world trees, boundless roots bound him, dragged him, and suppressed him. Of course, Fong Qingshan also knew that this was not a solution. After all, even a 12th grade Golden Lotus could not trap him. However, this was also a temporary measure. After all, this was a troublesome place, and they could not stay for long. Chapter 494. Taking advantage of Mosquito Dowrin's serious injuries, Fong Qingshan temporarily suppressed it under the world tree with the innate small world. Then, he collected the Sun-Moon Pearl, the Tortoise Shell, and the 3rd grade Golden Lotus that the Holy Mother of Turtle Spirit dropped. Looking at the remaining 9th grade Golden Lotus, he swallowed his saliva and did not dare to touch it. Forcibly suppressing the greed in his heart, he sighed, communicated with the celestial chessboard, and instantly left the world of gods. Fong Qingshan knew that if he dared to take away the remaining 9th grade Golden Lotus, even if he hid in the immortal world, Zhuani would come after him. He would not forget the magical power of Sanqing that he obtained in the great Dominator world. Since Laozi could travel to the heavens, even if Zhuanti's cultivation was not as good as Laozi's, it would be easy for him to do this. At that time, even Laozi would not be able to save him. However, it was already a pleasant surprise to be able to harvest these things this time. After all, Fong Qingshan's original goal was only the Sun-Moon Pearl and the Tortoise Shell of the Holy Mother of Turtle Spirit, as well as the mouthpiece and 3rd grade Golden Lotus of Mosquito Dowrin. But he didn't expect Taoists want to be so rich. Compared to those prehistoric and ancient innate gods, she was not inferior at all. She even had 2 top-grade innate spiritual treasures, the Northern Mystic Water Control Flag, one of the innate 5 flags, and the Death Scythe, a killing treasure, one for offense and one for defense. Good heavens! Fang Qingshan had only obtained 2 top-grade primordial spiritual treasures after scheming in all aspects at the beginning. Now it was just like the mantis stalking the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. He had obtained 3 top-grade primordial spiritual treasures, and they were the best kind, as well as a quarter of a top-grade primordial spiritual treasure. It was simply a case of not opening for 3 years, but opening for 3 years to eat. Just as Fang Qingshan left the world of gods, Laozi finally got rid of Tong Tian and came to the scene of the incident. However, at this moment, his old face was as black as ink. However, Boy White Lotus's body and soul had been destroyed, leaving only a skeleton. The 12th-stage Golden Lotus had been reduced to the 9th stage and the remaining 3rd stage, as well as the culprit from before and even the Mystic Essence Water Controlling Flag, one of the Khanate 5 Direction flags, were gone. Spiritual treasures were in danger. I'm not the only one who predicted that the Taiji painting would be lost. He had also considered that the 12th stage Golden Lotus would have to face the division tribulation. The earlier the calamity was dealt with, the better. Otherwise, the effects would be compounded. With the 12th stage Golden Lotus in his hands, it was clear that he would not encounter any calamities. If he did encounter any, it would probably be a calamity of destruction. Therefore, he asked Boy White Lotus to bring the 12th stage Golden Lotus back. He wanted the Golden Lotus to undergo tribulation. As expected, his method worked. The 12th stage Golden Lotus was destroyed, leaving only the 9th stage. This was the most precious treasure of the Western sect, and it wasn't enough to begin with. Now that the Western Buddhist sect was about to prosper, something like this actually happened. It was like adding snow to snow. Fortunately, as long as he found the remaining 3rd stage Golden Lotus and nurtured it with merit, it could still be repaired. Moreover, what made Jane feel that fortune and misfortune were closely related was that he actually saw the last of the Khanate 5 Direction flags on the culprit, the Xianyuan Water Manipulation flag. This was really a pleasant surprise. Therefore, he risked his life to get rid of Grandmaster Tong Tian. He wanted to retrieve the Golden Lotus as soon as possible and seize the Xianyuan Water Manipulation flag. Little did he know that he was still a step too late. Not only was the Xianyuan Water Manipulation flag gone, but the 3rd stage Golden Lotus was also gone. He really suffered a double loss. In the end, he suffered a huge loss. Jie-Yin's strange behavior naturally could not be hidden from the sages present. From the moment he vomited blood, to the moment he was in a hurry to leave, and in the end, he even wanted to risk his life. How could the other sages not be curious? One had to know that sages had almost no desires other than luck, inheritance, and face. What exactly caused Jie-Yin to make such a big fuss? Therefore, after Jie-Yin left, the few of them also followed him. When Junti saw the remaining 9th stage Golden Lotus, he immediately knew why Jie-Yin had such an expression. For a moment, he empathized with him, and his heart ached so much that he vomited blood. Senior brother, what the hell is going on? Who did this? As for Tong Tian and the other 2, they were just short of throwing their heads back and laughing heartily to celebrate. Although Laozi and Primordial Lore of Origin had joined hands with Junti in order to deal with Tong Tian, they were not on the same side after all. Seeing them suffer a loss, and even the treasure that stabilized their luck was destroyed, they were naturally overjoyed. But what about Tong Tian? Seeing that his enemy had received the retribution he deserved, he was naturally happy. The only thing that made him sad was that the goddess of turtle spirit had also met with misfortune, and her body and soul had been destroyed, which made him very sad. One had to know that the goddess of turtle spirit was one of the 4 great disciples of the tribe of Jie. She was the most valued by Tong Tian and was his successor. Now that she had fallen into such a situation, how could Tong Tian not be sad? However, he had no choice now. Jie school had lost. It was not just the goddess of turtle spirit. The others did not get any better either. Some died, some are injured, and some are captured. The huge Jie school, where tens of thousands of immortals came to pay their respects, had collapsed today. Haha, good and evil will be rewarded in the end. It's just that it came late or early. Even so, Tong Tian was still very happy, because when the enemy was unhappy, he was happy. Jie Injuni had destroyed his tribe of Jie, and the treasure that stabilized their luck was also destroyed. They were not much different. The sages did not die, but they had lost this battle. They would get it back in the next cultivation tribulation. As the saying goes, don't hit people in the face, and don't expose people's shortcomings when scolding them. Tong Tian's words were simply rubbing salt in the wound. Jie Injuni could not stand it anymore. One of them held 6 bamboo sticks of bamboo, of purity, and the other held a divine pestle and rushed toward Tong Tian. Come on, do you think I'm afraid of you? Tong Tian was now eager to see the world in chaos. Seeing the movement of Jie In and Jie In, not only did he not dodge, but he also went forward excitedly. As for Laozi and Primordial Being, it had nothing to do with them, so they naturally sat on the mountain and watched the tigers fight. If the two of them did not intervene, Tong Tian would be broken, and Jie In and Junti would be blinded by pain. For a moment, they could not help but let go of their hands and feet. Every single move of a sage possessed astonishing might, not to mention going all out and going all out. This was the world of desolation, not the chaos. They were happy, but the world of desolation suffered. For a moment, the mountains and rivers were broken, the wind was blowing, and all living things were floating. The whole world was broken, as if it was going to destroy the world and rebuild the earth, fire, water, and wind. When Laozi and Primordial Beings saw this, they knew it was not good, but it was too late. At this moment, there were tens of thousands of auspicious clouds, thousands of auspicious qi, and a strange fragrance. They saw a Taoist with a bamboo stick in his hand. It was the final boss, Daozu Hongjun. He did not need to make a move at all. With a few words, he settled the situation. Then he took action to sort out the world, quelled the disaster, and finally brought Sanqing back to the Purple Cloud Palace. Chapter 495. I'm finally back. Immortality, Xianwang Great World. Fang Qingshan couldn't help but sigh when he saw the familiar scene. Although he didn't stay in the apatheosized world for a long time, what he had experienced was far more than what he had experienced in the past. First of all, the celestial chessboard, a treasure of luck, has reached the primordial realm. More importantly, Fang Qingshan has sensed that another world comparable to or even surpassing the desolation world is about to open. Then there is the Taoist law. He became the disciple of Laozi and obtained the Tai Ching immortal law. From then on, Fang Qingshan's cultivation is smooth. At least before the sage-to-be, there will be no big problem as long as he practices step by step. The second is the harvest of spiritual treasures. Fang Qingshan is now the richest person under the sage. There are more than 1 or 2 top-grade primordial spiritual treasures, and some are the top ones. One of the primordial 5 flags, the Xianyuan water control flag, the Death Scythe, the Sun and Moon Pearl, the treasure coin, as well as a quarter of the 12th grade golden lotus, a third of the 36 sea calming divine pearls, and so on. The most important thing is that he also obtained the 5-element spirit pearl, a high-grade primordial spiritual treasure. Although this item is not as good as the Xianyuan water control flag and other treasures, it is more important to Fang Qingshan. As for other treasures such as the Bodhi wood, the Bodhi seed, the wind bag, and so on, the other most important point is Fang Qingshan's cultivation. He broke through the earth immortal realm. In the immortal world, he is truly standing at the top, surpassing the true immortals who comprehend life and death. It can be said that he is the first person in the world. Moreover, he has both offense and defense. Whether it is a one-on-one fight or a group fight, he is not afraid at all. After all, in this trip to the apatheosized world, he not only obtains spiritual treasures, but also a formation. 9 Ben's Yellow River Formation. In the hands of the 3 sky fairies, the 12 golden immortals of the Chan School were captured in one fell swoop, forcing the honored Lord of the Origin to personally take action and bully the weak. Fang Qingshan had obtained the formation diagram of the 9 Yellow River Formation from the Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning. Due to his cultivation level and the realm of the Array Dao, the power that he could unleash was completely incomparable to Yun Zhao's. But once the diagram of the Yellow River of 9 Bends was unleashed, even mystic immortals and even golden immortals would be crushed if they didn't have any supreme treasures on them, much less heavenly immortals and true immortals. In this way, not to mention in the eternal lower realm, even if he ascended to the immortal world, Fang Qingshan could be called a giant. It had to be said that in the immortal plane, golden immortals could be considered as the big shots of a region. They were powerful enough to establish their own sects and deter a region. Moreover, the golden immortal Fang Qingshan mentioned is not the same concept as the golden immortal of Immortal World. After all, although the immortal world is also very grand, it cannot be compared with the world of desolation. Therefore, his gold immortal cultivation was no match for the true immortal gold immortals of the desolation world. Not to mention these for the time being, Fang Qingshan had just stood outside the mysterious yellow great world and sighed with emotion. Things remain the same, but people have changed, and suddenly there was a strange scene above his head. He saw a square door appear. The whole body is colored glass, purple and blue dense. Layers of treasure chi are like dragons, roaring up and down. Thousands of mysterious heavenly sounds turned into essence, pervading the left and right, filling the air with fragrance. The gate of the immortal realm. As soon as he saw this thing, Fang Qingshan knew what it was. After all, he had seen it when he broke through the realm. Now the gate of the immortal realm suddenly appeared and emitted a welcoming immortal light towards Fang Qingshan. There was no other reason. It's just that his cultivation has reached the peak of the lower realm, and staying in the lower realm has broken the balance. So the welcoming immortal light descended to let him ascend. For others, this is naturally what they want. After all, the immortal realm is the place that all cultivators in the immortal world dream of. Why did the emergent sect still have no choice but to tolerate Hua Tiandu after knowing that he was half-hearted and tried to take advantage of both sides? In addition to the Tianwu treasure house, he could ask the Greater One sect for a few ascension quotas for the emergent sect. Even Venerable Ling Long, the first person in 3,000 years, had to rely on Fang Han's power in order to ascend. However, this is completely meaningless to Fang Qingshan. Because his cultivation is enough to break the gate of the immortal realm, he can ascend anytime and anywhere. Therefore, he doesn't care about this welcoming immortal light. On the contrary, he still has some things to do in the lower realm, and ascending too early is not worth the loss. It should be known that in the mysterious yellow great world alone, there are 7 mansions, 3 treasuries, 1 secret treasury, and so on. And the treasures inside, even in the immortal realm, are rare treasures for the immortals. Although Fang Qingshan has obtained all kinds of benefits in the world of gods, how can things that can be easily obtained be pushed out? Therefore, the welcoming immortal light shrank and was about to pull Fang Qingshan into the gate of the immortal realm. Fang Qingshan snorted coldly and took out a sickle. The sickle is black, exuding a strong aura of death from hell. It is the death sickle, a supreme grade killing innate spiritual treasure. But Fang Qingshan activated his magic power and gently waved. Crack! But there was a crisp sound. Even with Fang Qingshan's earthly immortal cultivation, he couldn't get rid of the welcoming immortal light. It was easily cut off, as if it was decayed. Then, Fang Qingshan performed the great lurking technique, converging his aura, revealing only the cultivation of a perfected immortal. The guiding immortal light was unable to sense the aura from before, and it lingered for a while before reluctantly withdrawing in the end. Not long after, the door to the immortal dimension vanished without a trace like an illusory bubble, as if it had never appeared. I've left the emergent sect for so long, it's time to go back and have a look. Fang Qingshan looked at the emergent sect and instantly penetrated the endless space-time, as if the emergent sect was right in front of him. Then, Fang Qingshan found something wrong, because the entire emergent sect was actually enveloped by a large array. Although Fang Qingshan had already sensed that the black-yellow great world seemed to be in an extremely tense atmosphere, he knew that this should be a precursor to the imminent attack of the celestial race. But the celestial race hadn't attacked yet, and the emergent sect actually activated the large array. Something must have happened. Fang Qingshan's eyes flashed, and the sun and moon rose. Black and white alternated. It was the yin-yang eye. After Fang Qingshan obtained the yin-yang vacuum technique, this magical power had been greatly refined. Later, when he was in the world of gods, he borrowed Qi Jingzi's yin-yang mirror to push this magical power to the perfect realm in one fell swoop. With Fang Qingshan's cultivation, how could a mere emergent sect's large array stop him when he activated the yin-yang eye? In an instant, the situation of the emergent sect was reflected in Fang Qingshan's mind. In the mountains of the emergent sect, many disciples were flying around, assassinating each other to hone their skills. In the mountains, some were refining pills, some were refining swords, and some were refining talismans. It was a busy and tense atmosphere. Chapter 496. Damn it! Suddenly, Fang Qingshan roared, and the whole world seemed to tremble. A ruthless aura swept out in all directions. Just a single glance at him would send shivers down one's spine. Why did Fang Qingshan suddenly erupt? Naturally, it was because of the internal situation of the emergent sect. At a glance, Fang Qingshan did not see his all-heavens peak. Not only that, but Fang Qingshue's violet lightning peak, Fang Han's reincarnation peak, and Fang Qingwei's legacy peak were all gone. Fang Qingshan calculated with his fingers and knew that Meng Xiaobai had returned. This person obtained the orthodoxy of the ancient lifeless sword sect and learned the Great Massacre Art. The Great Massacre Art was also one of the 3,000 great Dao mystiques. In terms of killing power, even the Great Yin-Yang Art and the Great Five Elements Art, which were ranked in the top 10, were inferior to it. It was a Dao technique that was specifically created for killing. This item was also snatched from the Gate of Eternal Life by the Heaven Realm's Heaven Monarch of Massacre, a powerful existence that existed since the creation of the world. Before the rise of Fang Qingxue, Fang Qingshan, and Fang Han, Meng Xiaobai was considered one of the top true disciples of the emergent sect. Except for Hua Tiandu, perhaps the so-called four true disciples of the East, West, South, and North could not compare to him. This person was also very amazing. If he had not met Fang Han, he would probably be another Hua Tiandu. Even Fang Han could not suppress him in one go. This time, he had great luck and obtained a great opportunity. He had an emptiness immortal as his foster father and an emptiness immortal as his master. It was because of these two people that Meng Xiaobai came back swaggeringly. Because of the white sun soaring scripture, the emergent sect lost contact with the upper realm. The divine race's great tribulation was imminent. As long as there was a way to increase their strength, the emergent sect's three sages and Feng Baiyu naturally wanted it. Meng Xiaobai disliked Fang Han, causing Fang Qingxue and Fang Qingshan to hate him. The first thing he did when he returned to the emergent sect was to ask Feng Baiyu to remove the three sages and remove Fang Qingshan's position as the first deputy sect master. The three feather saints had no problem with it, but Feng Baiyu vetoed it. Fang Qingshan, Fang Qingxue, and Fang Han were all top disciples of the emergent sect. It was obviously not worth it to kick such people out of the emergent sect. However, even though they were geniuses, they had yet to truly grow up. On the other hand, Meng Xiaobai had two void immortals standing behind him. As the saying goes, the arm cannot twist the thigh. In the end, they could only settle for the next best thing. They stripped Fang Qingshan of his position as the first vice-sect leader and demoted him to an inter-sect disciple. Naturally, the true teachings peak was also moved. Unfortunately, man proposes, God disposes. Feng Baiyu could never have imagined that Fang Qingshan would progress so quickly. In just a few short years, he had advanced triumphantly from the Grotto Heaven realm to the longevity mystic realm, becoming a true immortal. His progress was even faster than in the fleshly body realm and the divine ability realm. He had countless treasures in his hands and could be said to be invincible in the world. Not only Fong Qingshan, but Fong Qingxue and Fong Han also relied on their own strength to send them to the sky. They borrowed the great tribulation and luck to advance by leaps and bounds. If he knew about this, not to mention that Meng Xiaobai only had 2 void immortals behind him, these 2 were also eyeing the emergent sect covetously. Even if he helped Meng Xiaobai unreservedly and became a void immortal himself, Feng Baiyu would not agree. However, in the end, even a wise man would make a mistake. If Feng Baiyu knew about Fong Qingshan's cultivation, his intestines would probably turn green with regret. Moreover, this setback was about to arrive. Fong Qingshan's figure flashed, and he arrived in front of the emergent sect. There was no time for the disciples inside to react. With a flick of his finger, a white light flashed, and a space crack was formed. It was as thin as a hair, but the power contained in it made the Ascension sect's great array feel danger, so it was activated in advance. In fact, Fong Qingshan did not use any great divine ability. It was the instant kill technique derived from the great golden sword Qi, one of the 8 great divine abilities of the emergent sect. However, although this divine ability was ordinary in Fong Qingshan's eyes, it was actually considered very good even in the longevity mystic realm. If used well, it was comparable to the great slicing technique. Based on Fong Qingshan's cultivation base alone, it was already extraordinary. This was like the power of the founding ancestors' long fist in the hands of Qiao Feng and the power of an ordinary person. The same martial arts, the same divine ability, when used by different people, the situation was like heaven and earth. The emergent sect's mountain-protecting great formation was called the Astral Fiend Heaven and Earth Unity Great Formation. This formation was not worth mentioning in Fong Qingshan's eyes. After all, compared to the Jie school in the apatheicized world, which was famous for its formations, this formation was indeed not worthy of carrying the shoes of the 10-terminal formation and the 9-yellow river formation. However, in the black-yellow great world, it was considered very good. This formation connected the qi of the earth with some alternate spaces, and with the power of the alternate spaces, it maintained its operation. As long as it could not be broken in one fell swoop, a steady stream of power would surge from the void in all directions, quickly reinforcing and repairing the formation. Unfortunately, he met the current Fong Qingshan. Not only had his cultivation changed dramatically, but his knowledge of the formation Dao was also not the same as before. If it was in the past, Fong Qingshan might have needed to burn his lifespan, cast the Little Destiny technique, and cast the escape technique to find the flaws of the great formation and then attack. However, there was no need to go through so much trouble now. Not to mention that with Fong Qingshan's cultivation, he did not need to find the flaws of the formation at all, and he could directly break the formation with his strength. With his eyesight alone, he did not need to cast any other techniques. With a glance with the yin-yang eye, he could see where the formation was strong and where the formation was weak. Go! Fong Qingshan didn't even use any Dharma treasures. He just released the 5 elements light rings, which turned into 5 divine lights. Just like Kong Xian's 5-color divine light, metal, wood, water, fire, earth, white, green, black, red, and yellow, they spread out like a fan, like a peacock spreading its tail. This was the result that Fong Qingshan had come up with after witnessing Kong Xian's 5-color divine light, and based on his attainments in the 5 elements. Although it was not at the level of Kong Xian's 5-color divine light, which was able to sweep and destroy everything, it was still not as powerful as Kong Xian's. However, it was as easy as flipping one's hand to deal with this baleful heavens and earth integration grand formation. As soon as the 5 elements divine light fell, with a gentle brush, the entire formation shattered like an eggshell. Cracks spread out like spiderwebs. Although there was an endless stream of energy from the heavens and the earth, trying to repair the cracks. It was to no avail. In just a few breaths, the entire formation collapsed with a loud bang. Fang Qingshan's movements were so fast that the emergent sect's disciples couldn't react at all. It wasn't until the earth-shattering sound of the grand formation shattering that they were awakened. Not good. Who is it? Enemy attack. Enemy attack. However, at this time, there was no need for their reminder at all because the senior members of the emergent sect had appeared. Chapter 497. Emergent Sect, Golden Immortal Palace. The three saints of the emergent sect, Sect Master Feng Baiyu, and many supreme elders of the emergent sect sat together to receive a distinguished guest. This person wore a black and white Taoist robe. This Taoist robe seemed to be shrouded in fate, energy, calamity, past, and future. He was a middle-aged man with white hair on his temples, but he was extremely elegant with slender fingers. Beside this middle-aged man stood a white-robed youth. It was Meng Xiaobai. This person was naturally one of Meng Xiaobai's backers, Great Change Sect's heavenly cycle immortal sovereign. He was in existence in the pseudo-immortal realm. In the entire 3,000 worlds, he could be regarded as a top expert. At this moment, he was discussing the alliance with Feng Baiyu and the others. In order to resist the celestial race's great calamity, the emergent sect worked hard to obtain any power that could help them survive the calamity. As for heavenly cycle immortal sovereign, naturally, it was not as simple as standing up for his disciple. The reason he came to the black-yellow great world and the emergent sect was naturally to intervene here. Although the black-yellow great world had declined, as the leader of the 3,000 great worlds, there were too many treasures buried here. The most famous ones were the 7 prefectures, 3 treasuries, and 1 secret treasury. Now that the celestial race was attacking, the great calamity had begun. Although it was dangerous, the great Tao was fighting, and the great calamity was also a great opportunity. Therefore, all the capable people, clans, and sects had begun to invest in the black-yellow great world. If not for this, would heavenly cycle immortal sovereign, a dignified pseudo-immortal, be so bored as to stand up for a disciple, meddling in the internal affairs of other sects? Of course, other than Meng Xiaobai, who was too young and ignorant, thinking that his master was doing this for him. Whether it was the emergent sect or heavenly cycle immortal sovereign, they knew each other's intentions at a glance. However, this was a matter of Zhou Yu and Huanggai. One was willing to fight, while the other was willing to suffer. Just as they were chatting in full swing, the entire emergence immortal palace suddenly shook. The 3 great suns floating above the small immortal realm in the golden immortal palace were on the verge of collapse. Immediately, Zhao Xinyang, Wang Kunlun, Wu Mingkong, Feng Baiyu, and the others couldn't help but be shocked. They quickly stabilized the situation. After investigating, they found out that someone had actually broken through the mountain-guarding grand array of the emergent sect. Who dares to invade my emergent sect? Zhao Xinyang, Wang Kunlun, Wu Mingkong, and the others scolded angrily. Swish, swish, swish. One by one, figures landed in front of the mountain gate. Fang Qingshan. When everyone saw who it was, they were shocked again. Of course, they were not only surprised that Fang Qingshan actually came back at this time, but also surprised by Fang Qingshan's cultivation. He could actually break through the mountain-guarding array of emergent sect. Even if they were not in charge, the array could not be broken by anyone. It could be seen that Fang Qingshan's cultivation must have changed by leaps and bounds. However, soon after, the crowd looked at Fang Qingshan with a pitiful gaze. So what if his cultivation had increased? So what if he had advanced by leaps and bounds? He was about to face a void immortal. No one would believe that Fang Qingshan's cultivation base had already reached the level of a pseudo-immortal. It's a pity that I was born at the wrong time. Fang Qingshan was once the #1 genius of the emergent sect and the first deputy sect leader. Unfortunately, it was not enough to face Meng Xiaobai, who had 2 void immortals behind him. No matter how talented he was, it was useless if he did not grow up. Everyone couldn't help but have a feeling that they were blessed with a bright future. In the past, it was because of Hua Tiandu and Fong Qingshan. Now, it was because of Fong Qingshan and Meng Xiaobai. Fong Qingshan, how dare you go against your superiors, deceive your master, and destroy the mountain gate of the emergent sect? You are really ambitious. You must be punished. Although Meng Xiaobai wasn't Fong Qingshan's greatest enemy and he hadn't interacted much with Fong Qingshan, he was still the first to jump out. A mysterious glint flickered in his eyes as he smiled sinisterly at Fong Qingshan. Now, tie your arms, kneel, and admit your mistake. Hand over the fortuitous opportunity and treasure. Open your mind and submit to me. I can ask the sect leader to spare you on account of your past contributions. Otherwise, although Meng Xiaobai did not finish his words, the threat was clear. At the same time, he thought to himself, of all the surnames you have to be surnamed Fong. Furthermore, you have a close relationship with that bastard Fong Han. You can only blame yourself for being unlucky. What is the sect leader's opinion? Fong Qingshan did not even look at Meng Xiaobai. He was just a clown. He looked straight at Feng Baiyu and asked indifferently, "Does the sect leader think that I am guilty?" "Of course you are guilty. Even 10,000 deaths will not absolve you." Meng Xiaobai did not expect Fong Qingshan to still dare to look down on him at this time. Did Fong Qingshan think that Feng Baiyu would stand on his side? How laughable. Meng Xiaobai did not wait for Feng Baiyu to speak and answered on his behalf. At the same time, he looked at Feng Baiyu and occasionally glanced at the cyclic heaven immortal venerate. "Qingshan, in the end, you broke the sect's grand array. You better admit your guilt." Feng Baiyu sighed in his heart. He had high hopes for Fong Qingshan, Fong Qingxue, and Fong Han. Unfortunately, they had not matured yet. Compared to the benefits that the cyclic heaven immortal venerate could bring him, it was obvious that he had to abandon Fong Qingshan. "Fong Qingshan, do you think you can escape after committing such a great crime?" "Humph. Good and evil will be repaid in the end. It is just a matter of time." "Fong Qingshan, you did not expect this day to come, right? Genius? Can he compare to Vice Sect Leader Meng?" The instant Feng Baiyu spoke, the other supreme elders, and true disciples seemed to have received a signal. Those who were once at odds with the Fong clan or disliked the Fong clan started to add insult to injury. So this is the emergent sect. What a pity. Although Fong Qingshan did not have much affection for the emergent sect, his rise to fame started from here. He more or less had some feelings for the emergent sect. But now, it seemed that his heart was towards the bright moon, but the bright moon shines in the ditch. Feng Baiyu had never seen through the three members of the Fong clan clearly before. Moreover, his fortuitous encounters seemed to be like a cloud dragon reaching for its claws or an antelope hanging its horns. He could not find any trace of it, seeing that there was no fear, anxiety, or worry on Fong Qingshan's face. Feng Baiyu's heart stirred, and he began to feel regret. Could it be that he still has a backup plan? I wonder how the other members of the Fong clan are doing. However, before he could think further, Fong Qingshan asked again. "Don't worry. Our emergent sect is a major immortal Dao sect. We won't go as far as to make a move on those ordinary disciples." Meng Xiaobai sneered. "However, if you continue to resist, then that might not be the case." Noisy, hearing that Fong Qin, Fong Ling, Fong Chong, and the others were doing well, Fong Qingshan felt relieved. He looked at Meng Xiaobai's smug expression and coldly glanced at him before flicking his finger. Chapter 498. Fong Qingshan, stop. "Junior, how dare you? Xiaobai, be careful." No one had expected that Fong Qingshan would dare to launch an attack and fight to the death when he was besieged on all sides and ambushed on all sides. Celestial Venerate Heavenly Circuit was especially furious. Fong Qingshan had actually sneak attacked Meng Xiaobai right in front of him. Fong Qingshan was simply looking down on him. Since that was the case, don't blame him for bullying the weak. Although he thought about it a lot, his attack was not slow at all. He did not show any mercy. With a sway of his body, a vast dermic power burst out. In an instant, The sky and earth in front of the mountain gate changed color. Heaven and earth rotated and became blurry. It was as if the world had returned to chaos. Fang Qingshan immediately felt an extremely strong force erecting a barrier in front of Meng Xiaobai while pulling Meng Xiaobai to his side. However, it was useless. Since Fang Qingshan had made a move, he naturally would not let him return empty-handed. Although everyone saw him make a move, it was just an illusion. Fang Qingshan's attack was so fast that everyone, including Celestial Venerate Heavenly Circuit, only saw the sound of the attack. The real attack had already hit Meng Xiaobai. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Suddenly, a sound rang out. Boundless sword light burst out of Meng Xiaobai's body and turned him into a sieve. It was an instant kill technique. However, when it was executed by Fang Qingshan, even Feng Baiyu was amazed and shocked. Xiaobai, seeing that he still could not save Meng Xiaobai, Celestial Venerate Heavenly Circuit was furious. This was a blatant slap in the face. Moreover, he still needed to form an alliance with the emergent sect through Meng Xiaobai to intervene in the black-yellow great world and seize the opportunity. Now, Meng Xiaobai had died in front of him. How could he accept this? Damn you! Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit had never thought that a mere junior could make him so angry. He walked forward step by step. Each step was like the beating of a heavenly drum. With each step, the entire emergent sect trembled. The oppressive atmosphere in the air was like a volcano that was about to erupt. Don't worry, I won't let you die so easily. I'll let you experience the feeling of being unable to live or die. He had ruined his reputation and ruined his grand plan. Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit narrowed his eyes and scanned Fang Qingshan with a cold glint in them. His hands danced like shadows, and spells flew out like butterflies, but at the same time, they flew out as fast as lightning. In an instant, the runes formed into chains, and the chains formed a huge net. The iron chains rattled, and in an instant, the entire mountain gate was sealed. There was no way out, 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 no way out. Heaven and earth shift divine ability. It was a divine ability similar to the inescapable net. It was to prevent Fang Qingshan from escaping. Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit was very clear about a genius like Fang Qingshan who had great luck. His cultivation level might not be high, but he had endless trump cards and could easily escape. The most important thing was that if he didn't kill the snake, he would be harmed instead. If he couldn't kill him in one go, not only would he not cause any harm to Fang Qingshan, but it would also be giving him an opportunity. Therefore, he had to make sure that nothing went wrong. This was the difference between these old and cunning people and young people. One side was a newborn calf that was not afraid of tigers, daring to fight, full of passion and fearless. The other side was an old man who was like a thief, planning before taking action. It was fine if he didn't make a move, but once he did, it would be a thunderous blow. Sun and moon as change, yin and yang alternating, great change divine fist. As soon as his voice fell, Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit punched out. Suddenly, one punch became two punches became four punches, 4 became 8, 8 became 16, 16 became 32, 32 became 64, and the number of the 8 trigrams showed the changes of the Great Change. It evolved into an 8 trigrams diagram that swept toward Fang Qingshan. Interesting, what a good Tao of Book of Changes. Seeing this, Fang Qingshan smiled faintly. I also have a Tao of 8 trigrams. Celestial Venerable, please have a look. King when confines and performs the Book of Changes. The word Zhou repeats and is prepared for everything. The word E is simple, and the word change is not easy. Buzz. With a light tremble, an old man with awe-inspiring righteousness appeared behind Fang Qingshan. He had white hair and a youthful face, holding a copper coin in one hand and a tortoise shell in the other. Pa! The copper coin and the tortoise shell fell to the ground. Qian was heaven, Kuan was earth, Zhun was thunder, Sun was wind, Jin was mountain, Dui was lake, Kin was water, and Li was fire. And 8 trigrams bigger than the celestial venerable heavenly circuit's 8 trigrams diagram appeared out of thin air. Bam! It was like an egg hitting a rock. When the two collided, the celestial venerable heavenly circuit's 8 trigrams diagram immediately disintegrated. How is this possible? Seeing this scene, not to mention the celestial venerable heavenly circuit, even Feng Baiyu and the others could not believe their eyes. They did not believe that Feng Qingshan's cultivation had reached such a level that he could contend against the celestial venerable heavenly circuit. The celestial venerable must have shown mercy. Although they were deceiving themselves, they could not help but feel a little incredulous. However, the celestial venerable heavenly circuit's disbelief was somewhat different from theirs. The Great Change sect was most proficient in the 8 trigrams. Today, Feng Qingshan had actually used the 8 trigrams to break his Great Change divine fist. How could not be shocked? Actually, this was normal. Yin and Yang, the 5 elements, and the 8 trigrams complemented each other. Feng Qingshan had obtained the yin-yang vacuum technique and the 5 Emperor Great Fiend mystical ability, so he naturally had some understanding of the 8 trigrams. Especially during this trip to become a god, he had encountered Ji-Chang. Although he was just a mortal, the book of changes that he discussed was no small matter. In addition, Feng Qingshan's cultivation realm was not something that the celestial venerable heavenly circuit could compare to. Although he did not use his power to suppress others, it was naturally effortless for him to break the Great Change divine fist. I don't believe it. The celestial venerable was obviously unwilling to accept this fact. However, seeing that he had executed the Great Change divine fist to the extreme, Essence Chi instantly covered the sky and earth, and 8 trigrams shot everywhere. The mountains outside the emergent sect began to collapse everywhere. Some mountains flew up, and endless underground water shot into the sky from the foot of the mountains, accompanied by a sea of magma and fire. Even in space, some planets were shaken and turned into meteors that fell down. Unfortunately, it was completely useless. Feng Qingshan did not counterattack. With a stomp of his feet, an 8 trigrams appeared. Following that, a curtain of beads rolled up, forming an 8 trigrams furnace. Standing in the center, no matter how the celestial venerable attacked, it was useless. Heaven and Earth Furnace, great mystical ability. This was a mystical ability that he had obtained from Zhang Jiao, imitating the Grand Supreme Lord 8 trigrams furnace. Now, that Feng Qingshan used the Book of Changes, it was completely different from before. Not to mention the attack. Its defense was unparalleled, almost comparable to a peerless defensive Dao artifact. Chapter 499. How is this possible? This sentence rang in everyone's mind once again. If Feng Qingshan had used the 8 trigrams diagram to break Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit's 8 trigrams diagram, it could be said that Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit had not used his full strength and was merely toying with him. However, at this moment, just by looking at the movements in the surroundings, anyone could tell that Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit had already gone all out and performed exceptionally well. However, the result was shocking. Feng Qingshan did not even make a move. He was giving Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit a taste of his own medicine. Using the 8 trigrams against the 8 trigrams cauldron alone had rendered all of Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit's methods useless. What could be more shocking than this? One must know that Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit was a pseudo-immortal, and not an ordinary one at that. He was a famous pseudo-immortal from the Great Change sect, which was ranked among the top in the 3,000 great cosmoses. Furthermore, he had not just broken through, but was a veteran pseudo-immortal. As for Feng Qingshan, although everyone knew that he was a genius, he was only at the Grotto Heaven realm a few years ago. Now, even Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit could not do anything to him. Everyone felt that their worldview had completely collapsed. Good, this is really good. With this kid, There is no need to worry about our emergent sect's prosperity. Those who had such thoughts were naturally Elder Tianxing, and the others who were neutral and biased towards Fang Qingshan and the others. Damn it! How can Fang Qingshan be so powerful? Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit, too. What a waste of his great reputation. It turns out that he is just a spear that looks good, but is useless. Those who had such thoughts were naturally led by the original faction of Hua Tiandu. What a pity! The last type of people who felt regret, and vexation were Feng Baiyu and the three levitating saints. If they had known that Fang Qingshan had such a cultivation that even Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit could only be at a disadvantage, how could they have listened to Meng Xiaobai? They had deposed Fang Qingshan from the position of sect master, crippled the legacy disciples of the Fang family, and uprooted their legacy peak. In the end, they had even wanted Fang Qingshan to surrender and kneel to be bound. This was especially true for Feng Baiyu. He felt like he had been hunting geese all day, but today he was completely blind. After all, the reason why he was able to rise in the Ascension sect and even lead the Ascension sect to challenge the Great Solitary sect was because of his foresight and scheming. However, he still made a mistake today. Although he thought highly of the Fang family, he didn't expect them to grow so quickly. Money can't buy an early warning. Regardless of what the others were thinking, Fang Qingshan had fought with Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit for a while and had finally seen through the Great Transformation Divine Fist. Combining it with his Book of Changes, the Five Elements, and Yin-Yang, Fang Qingshan gained a deeper understanding of the 8 trigrams. All right, if you don't have any other tricks up your sleeves, I'm afraid you won't be able to escape today. After getting what he wanted, Fang Qingshan did not want to continue playing with Heavenly Circuit Immortal Venerable. I'm arrogant. Do you think my Great Change sect is that easy to deal with? Heavenly Circuit Immortal Venerable bellowed angrily. Following that, he spread his 5 fingers and stretched out his hand. Like a cloud dragon reaching out, immortal aura swept over, and like an inescapable net, it headed toward Fang Qingshan to capture him. Heaven's will capturing hand, like superlative workmanship and 10,000 dragons refining realm, it was an immortal technique. It was a combination of the Great Firmament technique and the Great Soul technique. The sky was the Great Firmament technique, and the will was the soul. Integrating the concept of the hand of heaven into one soul was heaven's will. Heaven's was like a saber, and time was like a blade. In an instant, Fang Qingshan felt like he had committed heinous crimes. Hongjun Tiandao had issued a decree, and he seemed to have no way out. He could only stretch out his neck and wait to be killed. Then, Heavenly Circuit Immortal Venerable turned his palm into a saber and slaughtered the world. The attack was so sharp that it was not inferior to a Supreme Grey Dao artifact. If it was someone else, they might not be able to dodge this move at all. However, it was not enough to deal with Fang Qingshan. Clang! The palm saber landed on the 8 trigrams furnace, and the sound of metal clashing rang out. Heavenly Circuit Immortal Venerable did not feel the irresistible force at all. Instead, he felt that his palm was numb from the recoil. Fortunately, he knew that Fang Qingshan's 8 trigrams furnace was not that easy to break. Therefore, he was prepared. After the first saber strike, the next saber strike followed, and they were all at the same spot. One saber strike after another. Thousands of faint shadows shuttled through the void, and the countless hand sabers were as clear as jade. The sound of a great bell resounded through the clouds. This was another immortal technique. Yi-Dao manifestation, 8 gods converging, was somewhat similar to the 1 Qi turning Sanqing. It was an upgraded version of the 9 spiraling shadows. Heavenly Circuit Immortal Venerable even burned his lifespan to enhance the immortal technique, clearly wanting to achieve success in one go. From this, it could be seen how much pressure Fang Qingshan gave him. This time, it was somewhat effective. There were traces of cracks at the place where the attack was. Seeing this, Heavenly Circuit Immortal Venerable's eyes lit up as if he saw the hope of victory. Without saying a word, he threw out a jade seal and suppressed the cracks. It was a peerless Dao artifact, the great jade seal. The jade seal was oval in shape, and the word E was engraved on it. Bang! As expected, two immortal techniques, hundreds of thousands of years of lifespan, and the attack of a peerless Tao artifact. Heavenly Circuit Immortal Venerable's wish was finally fulfilled. With a crisp sound, the heaven and earth furnace disintegrated. However, before he could laugh out loud, he saw 5 halos rise behind Feng Qingshan's head. It was still as stable as Mount Tai, and no attack could get past it. At this moment, Heavenly Circuit Immortal Venerable was in despair, and the smile on his face was still stiff. "Looks like you're at your wit's end." Seeing this, Feng Qingshan smiled faintly. "In that case, it's time for you to go on your way. Don't blame me for not giving you a chance." As soon as he said that, Feng Qingshan flicked his finger. Buzz! Like the vibration of a zither, a 5-colored brilliance flashed, and a crack appeared in midair. Crack! The moment Feng Qingshan spoke, Heavenly Circuit Immortal Venerable felt a dark cloud covering his head, and he felt a chill all over his body. Without saying a word, he cast a Taoist technique. Spirit talismans danced in the air, and bamboo-like treasure lights rose, flashing with ancient words. This was an unknown immortal technique, and its defensive power was comparable to the Great Protection technique. However, it was completely useless. The 5-colored brilliance poked out, and there was a poof. All sorts of talismans, bamboo slips, and treasure lights disappeared after being swept by the 5-colored brilliance. The unreachable figure of Heavenly Circuit Immortal Venerable, who was shrouded in providence, calamity, past, and future, and made others feel intimidated, paused in midair. A gentle breeze blew past. Heavenly Circuit Immortal Venerable's body immediately disappeared like a dreamy bubble. It turned into sparkling spots of light. Great 5 Elements Annihilation Needle. Feng Qingshan's best technique. Piercing the bone, destroying the bone, and destroying the form. Especially after he obtained the 5-element Spirit Pearl and studied Kong Xian's 5 Elements Taoist technique, the power of this mystical ability became even greater. Heavenly Circuit Immortal Venerable, who is a void immortal, could not withstand this needle at all. Chapter 500. This is impossible. Seeing this scene, the entire sky fell silent. Everyone was dumbfounded. Today, they had experienced too much shock. Although they had seen many clues from the previous exchange and knew that Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit was not Feng Qingshan's match, they did not expect that he could not even withstand a single blow. This was a pseudo-immortal, a veteran pseudo-immortal from a major sect. Although he was not a match for an ordinary perfected immortal, it should not be a problem for him to withstand a few blows. However, there was nothing. One move, one 5-colored jade needle, and it was just a casual stab. Space-time shattered, and the immortal technique's defense shattered. Even his entire body was turned into ashes. At this moment, Feng Baiyu and the 3 Saints of Emergence were filled with regret. At the same time, Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit hated Meng Xiaobai to the bone. Humans were like this. When there was nothing going on, it was good for everyone. Once something happened, especially something that was disadvantageous to them, they would look for the cause. The first thing they looked for was not the internal cause, but the external cause. This was originally a true disciple of the Emergence sect, the #1 genius, and the first vice sect master. If there were no accidents, he would be in charge of the Emergence sect in the future. However, it was precisely because of the arrival of Meng Xiaobai and Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit that they pushed this genius away. However, they did not expect that when they made this decision, they had already thought it through and weighed the pros and cons otherwise. Without their consent, would the Cyclic Heaven Immortal Sovereign really dare to risk universal condemnation and threaten them? Unfortunately, it was too late to say anything now. Without help in the hour of need, there was no need for icing on the cake. It was not just them. The other pseudo-immortal hiding in the dark was truly shocked. This person was Xian Wuqing, the ancestor of a large family in the Sacred Light Empire of the Sacred Light Great World. He was not inferior to the Great Change Sex Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit. He was also Meng Xiaobai's backer, and he was also the one who recommended Meng Xiaobai to Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit. He and Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit conspired in secret. One was in the open, while the other was in the dark. They wanted to promote their spokesperson, Meng Xiaobai, intervene in the emergent sex matters, and lay the groundwork for the upcoming calamity of the celestial race. At the same time, it was to deal with Fang Qingshan, Fang Qingxue, and Fang Han's family. After all, they possessed all sorts of fortuitous encounters that even a void immortal would covet. There is no need to talk about Fang Qingshan. His fortuitous encounters were the most mysterious, but the speed of his improvement was similarly breathtaking. What about Fang Qingxue? The reincarnation of the primordial mother of lightning had obtained the legacy of the primordial thunder emperor. Legend had it that she also knew the minor destiny art, a branch of the grand destiny art. She also possessed the peerless Tao artifact, the inextinguishable lightning. Fang Han had obtained the legacy of the Yellow Spring Grand Emperor, the peerless Tao artifact, the underworld WRM diagram, and even some other fortuitous encounters, such as the Tai Yuan Immortal Mansion. If these were to be obtained by them, it would naturally be of great benefit. After digesting them, they might even be able to ascend directly. However, as the saying goes, being too clever at every turn could cost you your life. Everything was well planned, and the plan was carried out smoothly. But because he miscalculated one thing, he fell short of success at the last step. That was Fang Qingshan's strength. They had already overestimated Fang Qingshan's strength. However, they still didn't expect that in just a few years, Fang Qingshan's cultivation base would advance by leaps and bounds from the Grotto Heaven realm all the way to this stage. He was actually able to stand still in the same place. Even the peerless Tao artifacts and immortal arts used by void immortals could not break through his defense, and even when he attacked, he couldn't withstand a single blow. No, it was even more terrifying than that, because he knew that the Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit had another art called the True Fire of Yi-Dao, Rebirth of the Northern Underworld. Using this art was like an upgraded version of the immortal body. As long as one still had a breath left, they could be reborn from the ashes like a phoenix rising from the ashes. However, the Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit did not even have the time to use this immortal art before his soul dispersed. Xian Wuqing finally felt fear, and a bone-piercing chill ran through his body. He had survived the celestial world's lightning punishment and was already an expert of the pseudo-immortal realm. From now on, there would be no calamities or tribulations. He only had to wait to comprehend the nomological laws of life and death. Then he could ascend to the celestial world and live freely. If there was an advantage, he would naturally take it. However, how would he dare to take the risk when he knew that it was impossible? Xian Wuqing immediately wanted to leave this place that was no less than a dragon's lair and a tiger's den. Unfortunately, facing Fang Qingshan, was he someone he could come and go as he pleased? Taoist, since you're here, aren't you being too rude to leave in a hurry without even showing your face? Fang Qingshan said with a faint smile as he cast a glance at the void. Oh no! Seeing the look in Fang Qingshan's eyes, Xian Wuqing was greatly shocked. He could not care about anything else and hurriedly used all his strength. He turned into a ray of light and fled into the distance, towards the outside of the Xianhuang Great World, at lightning speed. The Great Light Art. It was also one of the 3,000 great Tao mystiques. The ultimate art of the sacred light great world, the Great Light Art, illuminated the heavens and earth. The light was enough to penetrate hundreds and thousands of planets, and its attack was unparalleled. However, it could also be used as a greater teleportation art. It was a little similar to the rainbow transformation art of the Golden Crow tribe. What a guy! With Fang Qingshan's current might, a void immortal did not even dare to think of resisting and fled at the sight of the wind. Unfortunately, even if he wanted to escape, he could not. Since Taoist wants to leave, I'll send you on your way. As soon as he finished speaking, Fang Qingshan stretched out his hand. In an instant, a towering palm, shining with five-colored light, took shape. Mixed elements, spirit, five elements, great capturing hand. He slapped at Xian Wuqing from afar. Everyone felt their vision darken, as if all the light had been swallowed. They could not hear anything at all. The loudest sound was silent, and the largest elephant was silent. However, in Xian Wuqing's heart, he was filled with endless fear. No! Xian Wuqing let out a howl of indignation and used all the techniques he could in an instant. He also stretched out his palm. His 5 fingers changed, and light gathered and condensed. He slapped at the capturing hand. Time lifespan, great immortal art. The great light art, the great tide art, the great transformation art, a total of 7 great Daos formed a great immortal art that could rob the enemy of their lifespan and refine their body completely. Even an opponent of the same level would be severely injured if they were hit by this attack. It was also one of Xian Wuqing's trump cards. Of course, Xian Wuqing knew that this immortal art alone was not enough. The defensive immortal art that the Heavenly Circuit Immortal Venerable used earlier could not defend against Fang Qingshan's attack at all. Therefore, after using the time lifespan great immortal art, Xian Wuqing made his move again. This time, he used an artifact or Dao tool. He waved his hand, and a pagoda-shaped artifact shot out. Normally, in addition to the grade, the shape of an artifact was also a standard for determining the strength of an artifact. Among all types of artifact, pagodas, bells, and cauldrons were the best. Chapter 501. Xian Wuqing's pagoda was naturally extraordinary. It was called the God's Pagoda, a treasure that Xian Wuqing had forged to rival the Dragon Clan's 8-divisional pagoda. The God's Pagoda, as the name suggested, was a pagoda where many deities resided. Among them, the best were naturally the Khanate nature deities. Just like how Tai's sect Yin Shui was the Khanate water god, or the 2 sun and moon deities that Fang Qingshan had captured in the Tianwu treasure vault during the sun-moon tide, they were naturally nurtured by heaven and earth. However, even in ancient times, there weren't that many nature deities for him to forge treasures with, let alone now. Therefore, if Khanate nature deities were not enough, he would have to settle for the next best thing. Other sky demons, celestial race, and Yao race would naturally do. This object was somewhat similar to the 10,000 immortal formation. The more deities there were in the pagoda, the more powerful the pagoda would be. It could even revolve the universal desolation, devouring everything like a whale swallowing the sea, refining it into a ball of Khanate nature spiritual chi. What was lost would be lost. If the person survived, the treasure would be lost. If the treasure was lost, both the person and the treasure would be lost. While the God's Pagoda was good, and Xian Wuqing would be gravely injured after its destruction, as long as he was alive, there was still hope. As the pagoda spun, Xian Wuqing gritted his teeth and sacrificed the countless sky demons, celestial race, Yao race, and even Khanate nature deities. Rumble. Then, streams of sacred, magnificent epicum gathered in the air to form balls of lightning, blasting toward the 5 elements' grappling hand. God's lightning. Boom! With this collision, the mountains, rivers, land, time, and space were all reduced to dust. A deep crater appeared in the ground, and the tectonic plates began to sink. Lava and volcanic ash shot into the sky, as though the end of the world had arrived. However, this was not enough. The immortal art was destroyed by the 5 elements light, and the god's lightning was devoured by the vortex in the palm. Even the god's pagoda, a peerless Dao artifact comparable to the Dragon Clan's 8-divisional pagoda, suffered a slap. While it was not destroyed, hideous cracks appeared on it, as though it would shatter with a single touch. It lost all its spirituality, and even if it was repaired in the future, its grade would most likely drop. As for the mixed elements Qi 5 elements capturing hand, while it paused for a moment and its light dimmed a little, it still slapped toward Xian Wuqing. Damn it, damn it. Xian Wuqing never thought that there would be a day where he would be in such a sorry state. Before he came to the Xianhuang Great World, he was in high spirits. He might not be able to sweep across the world, but he would at least be able to stand tall in a region. After all, the black-yellow Great World had declined. Apart from Venerable Ling Long and the Supreme One sect, the 10 immortal Dao sects, Devil Dao and Demon Dao, were not in their eyes. That was the truth. The Ascension sect, which was said to be a major sect that could catch up to the Supreme One sect, had only a Chaos Whole Realm Grand Elder. Although the Chaos Whole Realm seemed to be only one step away from the Void Immortal Realm, this step was like the difference between heaven and earth. It was the difference between immortal and mortal. However, what he didn't expect was that the emergent sect didn't give him any surprises or threats. Fang Qingshan, a rising star, actually put him in a life and death crisis. However, he was luckier than Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit because he had seen that Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit couldn't even take one strike from Fang Qingshan. Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit couldn't even use the Fire Change Rebirth technique or the Great Change Sect's immortal art of divination. Therefore, he didn't plan to fight with Fang Qingshan from the beginning and went all out from the beginning. This was a critical moment of life and death. A huge holy light Sirius flower slowly bloomed on top of Xian Wuqing's head. There seemed to be a void passageway that was about to be opened. Vaguely, there was a brilliance that shone on all things. It was a sacred and majestic light. This was obviously because he couldn't do it and wanted to call for reinforcements. He wanted to open the passageway to the Holy Light Great World and summon many experts from the Holy Light Great World to come and save him. He might even have the idea of surrounding and killing Fang Qingshan. However, the most important thing now was to hold on until then. Xian Wuqing was also a ruthless person. Of course, he had no choice but to be ruthless. You have to be willing, you have to be willing. As Xian Wuqing muttered, a monstrous power swept out from his body in an earth-shattering manner. At this moment, Xian Wuqing seemed to be undergoing nuclear fusion and fission. Endless power surged out from his body. Boundless brilliance shone in all directions. The holy light was enough to evaporate everything. Within the holy light, some perfect people with wings flew around and sang songs of praise. It was like an epic. Even Fang Qingshan's mixed elements, 5 elements, great capture hand couldn't help but pause. Then, Xian Wuqing's eyes stared at Fang Qingshan like he was staring at death. 10,000 years in a single glance. Although there was no sound, silence spoke louder than words. However, Fang Qingshan could clearly see the meaning in Xian Wuqing's eyes. He hated the impure emotions, hated the unreal dreams, hated the unwhite snow, hated the unclear light, hated the ice for not being cold, hated the fire for not being hot, hated the unclean water, hated the unclear wind, hated the unfairness of the earth, hated the unfairness of the heavens. Hate, 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 hate. This was such a strong hatred that even Fang Qingshan couldn't help but be shocked. His back was drenched in cold sweat. Then, Xian Wuqing's essence, flesh, willpower, and innate ability all began to burn. He wanted to use his death to achieve his goal of revenge. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, Xian Wuqing disappeared, leaving behind a spear. It was a spear formed from hatred, resentment, and vengeance. It was filled with a murderous aura, and it would not rest until one of them was dead. The Spear of Vengeance. It was a king-grade celestial artifact. Of course, it was not a real king-grade celestial artifact. Xian Wuqing had used a method to borrow a shadow, which was equivalent to a clone. Although it was only a shadow, it was more powerful than an ordinary celestial technique, such as the time elongation great celestial technique that Xian Wuqing had cast, or even an immortal artifact, such as the Boundless World's mixed elements diagram. With a single stab, billions of trillions of space were opened up, giving birth to the starry sky, the sun, the moon, the earth, the mountains, rivers, time, and worlds. When the two attacks collided, a cracking sound rang in the air. Both the Spear of Vengeance and the chaotic 5 elemental spirit grand capturing hand were unable to withstand the attack, and cracks began to appear on their surfaces. Of course, The chaotic 5-elemental spirit grand capturing hand was more powerful. After all, it was only a single attack from Fong Qingshan, and he had only used 80% of his strength. However, Xian Wuqing had sacrificed everything he had to communicate with a king-grade celestial artifact. The Spear of Vengeance not only destroyed the chaotic 5-elemental spirit grand capturing hand, but its momentum did not diminish as it charged toward Fong Qingshan. Although it looked like it was in pieces, its power was not inferior to Fong Qingshan's previous attack. Chapter 502. If it had been someone else, they would have been flustered in the face of the attack of a king-grade celestial weapon, even if they did not die. However, Fong Qingshan was different. Not to mention that this was just a shadow of a king-grade celestial weapon. So what if it was the real deal? It had to be said, Fong Qingshan was not just an earthen immortal. He also possessed more than one peak-grade primordial spirit treasure. Although they were not as good as the Gate of Eternal Life, they were not any weaker compared to fortune artifacts. However, due to his limited cultivation base, Fong Qingshan could not fully exert the power of these magic treasures. However, it was just a phantom. Even without the connate numinous treasure, Fong Qingshan could destroy it with a flip of his palm. Black and white light flashed in his eyes, and a pair of black and white scissors appeared out of thin air. As the light flickered, it turned into two black and white strange pythons. The yin and yang qi tumbled as they roared and fiercely cut at the waist of the Spear of Vengeance. Yin-yang Eye. Fong Qingshan combined Qi Jingzi's yin-yang mirror and Xiong Zhao's golden scissors to slow down the attack. Whether it was the yin-yang mirror or the golden scissors, they were better than the genuine Spear of Vengeance. Since the original level was higher than the original level, the divine skill would naturally be better as well. Not to mention, there was also the addition of Fong Qingshan's earthly level deity cultivation. Crack! As expected, the Spear of Vengeance broke in the middle, and the power and spirituality contained in it were all destroyed. How was this possible? Xian Wuqing doubted his life when he saw the Spear of Vengeance destroyed just like that. Yes, Xian Wuqing did not die. He had just sacrificed his pseudo-immortal incarnation, the second primordial spirit. While sacrificing the second primordial spirit, his body escaped and turned into a tiny space dust to hide in the dark. He was ready to add another stab if the Spear of Vengeance did not do its best. After all, this was the shadow of a king-grade celestial weapon. According to the division of the immortal world, above the Tao weapon was the immortal weapon, which was divided into low, medium, superior, and absolute. Above the supreme grade celestial weapon was the king grade celestial weapon. Such a treasure, even if it was just a shadow, was still a great killing weapon. It was an invincible existence. This was also Xian Wuqing's real trump card. However, it was still useless. What was even more difficult for him to accept was that the Spear of Vengeance was so easily broken by Fong Qingshan. Even if it was a stalemate, it would have been better. Unfortunately, there was none. Just as Xian Wuqing was feeling sorry for himself, he saw that the yin-yang scissors did not disappear into thin air after cutting through the Vengeance Spear. Instead, it cut towards the passageway that Xian Wuqing had opened up to the holy light world. Kacha! The sound of ripping silk rang out, followed by a series of terrified screams. No! The originally stable void passageway cracked with a loud bang. As for those experts who had been delusional enough to pass through the void passageway from the sacred light world to the black-yellow great world, they would be out of luck for 8 lifetimes. The void collapsed, streak after streak of great void cracks appearing, streaking across heaven and earth, carrying an extremely dangerous aura. There was only a soft sound, and the mountain was cut in half. The side that was cut was as smooth as a mirror. A pitch-black light flashed, and a bottomless crack appeared in the ground. Storms swept through the world, wreaking havoc. If this were to hit a person, anyone below the false immortal realm, without the protection of a peerless Tao artifact, would definitely die. Even if it were a false immortal, once they were trapped in the void, if they were unlucky, they could only die. Xian Wuqing's final hope was shattered, and he instantly lost all his vitality. It was as if he had suddenly transitioned from a young man to a dying old man. Fang Qingshan merely glanced at him indifferently. His eyes locked onto him like a mirror, and he blinked gently. In an instant, Xian Wuqing's essence spirit dissipated, and he lost all signs of life. This was a replica of the yin-yang mirror. One glance to live, and one glance to die. One must know that those who had survived the immortal world's lightning punishment would usually leave their consciousness in an alternate dimension, leaving behind a backup plan. If their main body met with an accident, they could still wait until they had accumulated enough strength to make a comeback. It was a pity that Fang Qingshan was proficient in the Little Destiny art. If the Heavenly Circuit Immortal Venerable and Xian Wuqing died, they would truly die. Not only would this gaze kill their original bodies, but it would also follow karma and fate to completely obliterate the will they had left in the alternate dimension, cutting off their path of retreat. At this moment, everyone from the emergent sect saw Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit and Xian Wuqing, two pseudo-immortals who were usually unreachable and legendary figures, die in front of them just like that. They didn't even manage to escape. The shock in their hearts was unimaginable. After the shock, a wave of fear and awkwardness began to spread. Naturally, those who were afraid were Hua Tiandu and his people, as well as those who had kicked him when he was down. Feng Baiyu, the three saints of emergence, Elder Tianxing, and the others felt awkward. If only the emergent sect hadn't given up on Fang Qingshan and the Fang family. Now, they could proudly announce that from now on, the emergent sect would surpass the Greater One sect and become the number one sect in the black-yellow great world. But now, Feng Baiyu and the others couldn't help but look at each other. I wonder if sect leader Feng can hand over the Fang clan to me now. Unfortunately, before they could speak, Fang Qingshan spoke first. Of course. Hearing this, Feng Baiyu nodded without the slightest hesitation, and the others naturally didn't have any objections. Qingshan, this time, it's me, the sect, that let you down, let the Fang family down, but Feng Baiyu deliberated for a moment and slowly spoke, wanting to make up for the gap between them. But before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by Fang Qingshan. Sect leader Feng, as the saying goes, broken mirrors can't be mended and spilled waters can't be retrieved. No matter what the reason is, since it has already happened, there will always be a gap between us. Instead of waiting for the volcano to erupt in the future, it's better to part ways peacefully now. I can abdicate now and pass the position of sect leader to you. Hearing this, Feng Baiyu directly stated his conditions. He didn't want to let go of Fang Qingshan. Whether it was for the upcoming calamity of the Shun clan or for his own matters in the future, Fang Qingshan was a powerful help. And Fang Qingshan could grow to this level in such a short time. What about Fang Qingxue and Fang Han? Even if they were slightly weaker, they probably wouldn't be too far off. At least they had the combat power of a false immortal. In this way, Feng Baiyu even more didn't want to lose Fang Qingshan and the others. The position of sect leader? Fang Qingshan chuckled and shook his head. This could indeed let him obtain more destiny, but he needed to pay a higher price. If the previous incident hadn't happened, Fang Qingshan might have accepted it. But now, a good horse didn't eat the same grass. Fang Qingshan didn't look for them to settle the account of abandoning the Fang family and hitting them when they were down. It could be said that he was already doing this for the sake of incense offerings. Chapter 503. Young Master. Third Young Master. Many servants, collateral relatives, and direct disciples of the Fang family that were left in the emergent sect were brought over by Elder Tianxing. Although they did not suffer any abuse, they were obviously depressed and dispirited, at least on the spiritual level. If not for their strong confidence in the Fang family's first young mistress, third young master, and Fang Han, and the lack of news of Fang Qingshan and the others, they would have collapsed long ago. No news was the best news. Before this, Fang Qingshan's position as the first deputy sect master was abolished. Fang Qingshan, Fang Qingxue, Fong Han and Fong Qingwei's legacy disciples were abolished, and several of their legacy mountains were removed. If there was news of Fong Qingshan and the others, Meng Xiaobai and the others would pounce on them like hungry wolves to eliminate the root of the problem. While they were waiting anxiously, Fong Qingshan returned, and he gave them a huge surprise as soon as he returned. He destroyed the mountain defense formation of the Emergence sect with one move. Following that, the culprit, Meng Xiaobai, died. Then, even Celestial Venerate Heavenly Circuit and Void Immortals like Xian Wuqing died in the hands of Fong Qingshan. The surprise came too suddenly, so much so that Fong Ling and the others thought they were dreaming. It was too unreal. That was until Elder Tianxing personally came to invite them and brought them to see Fong Qingshan in a pleasant manner. Along the way, he even faintly revealed that he wanted them to put in a good word for him. All of these made them skeptical until they saw Fong Qingshan in person. At this moment, all the Fong family members burst into tears. "All right, I'm back. You guys have suffered." Fong Qingshan nodded at them and comforted them. "Everything is over. Cultivate in peace from now on. It's better to rely on yourself than others. Strength is the foundation of everything." As he spoke, Fong Qingshan flicked his hand and took out a pearl. One could faintly hear the sound of waves and smell the faint smell of the sea. A five-colored brilliance shot out, sweeping towards Fong Qin and the others and instantly sucking them in. The sea-calming pearl. Although Fong Qingshan had not completely refined this treasure, he had refined one or two restrictions. It was barely usable. Although the sea-calming pearl had not been used to open up the 24 heavens, it was a spatial treasure in itself. There was another world within it, and it was the most suitable place to house the people of the Fong clan. Of course, Fong Qingshan's inner world, the innate small world, was also very suitable. However, it was not possible now. After all, there was a peerless, ferocious beast, Mosquito Dowrin, which was a ticking time bomb. If the members of the Fong clan were to be placed in the Xiantian minor world, and Mosquito Dowrin managed to break free, then even if he didn't manage to break free, even if he did, the heaven and earth would tremble violently, and the Fong clan would be faced with a calamity. Seeing the Dharma treasure in Fong Qingshan's hand, Fong Baiyu's pupils involuntarily constricted. He vaguely felt that this pearl was of a higher grade than his heavenly emperor mirror. In terms of aura alone, it was as deep as the mountains and seas, as deep as the abyss. Could it be an immortal artifact? Fong Baiyu felt even more regret in his heart. It was a pity that money couldn't buy it. If he had known earlier, money couldn't buy medicine for regret. After Fong Qingshan put away the members of the Fong clan, he cupped his hands towards everyone. The Emergent sect has the leadership of sect leader Fong. Naturally, you can ride the wind and break the waves and rise to the top. There's no need for me to do anything unnecessary. The mountains will never change, and the rivers will always flow. Let's meet again someday. As soon as he finished speaking, he executed the greater teleportation technique, and Fong Qingshan disappeared without a trace in an instant. Sigh. Looking at Fong Qingshan's disappearing figure and the scene of devastation in front of the Heaven's Emergence Gate, Fong Baiyu, the three saints of emergence, and almost everyone in the Heaven's Emergence sect couldn't help but let out a heavy sigh. The reason why they said almost all of them was naturally because there was a group of people who were naturally satisfied with the departure of Fong Qingshan and the Fong clan. If it wasn't for the fact that the time, place, and environment weren't right, they would almost be celebrating. After leaving the Emergent sect, Fong Qingshan really didn't know where to stay for a while. After thinking about it, he decided to return to his hometown, the Dali dynasty. First, ever since he left the Lonyuan province's Wanxiang garden, Fong Qingshan hadn't returned. Second, he couldn't find a place to stay for a while. Just as Fong Qingshan was about to return, his footsteps suddenly stopped in midair, and he exclaimed in surprise. What do you think? He suddenly sensed that something happened to Fong Han. Fong Qingshan and Fong Qingshan's fate were connected. His cultivation was higher than Fong Han's, and he also knew the minor fate art and the calculation art. Sensing that Fong Han's fate was intermittent and unstable, Fang Qingshan calculated with his fingers. Then his feet flashed, and he flew towards the endless snowfield. At this moment, the endless snowfield was freezing cold. A huge snowstorm was blowing, and the sky was filled with snowflakes that could even freeze steel into powder, rendering the world a white void. However, the harsh natural environment couldn't compare to Fang Han being ambushed from all sides. Due to Fang Qingshan's interference, Fang Han had lost the Tianwu treasury and the key of Wilderness God. However, he still went to the treasure-snatching rock, disguised as Prince Wu La, and became Mi Bao's disciple. He did not know whether it was because he was the protagonist or because he knew how to conduct himself, but he won Mi Bao's trust. This time, Mi Bao had obtained the command medallion of the Xuanhuan Great World's 7 mansions, 3 storehouses, and a misty treasure vault. He was prepared to explore the place and look for opportunities, so he wanted to bring Fang Han along. However, she didn't know that her every move was under the control of others. As a result, she fell into the God Race's trap. She was besieged on all sides and ambushed on all sides. They were led by Divine Emperor Dezhai, Deity Emperor Dongmu, Purple Moon Deity Emperor, Che Yuan Deity Emperor, Suho Deity Emperor, Bubu Deity Emperor, Shun Dao Deity Emperor, and so on. In the God Race, ordinary God Race members were called warriors. Those who cultivated to the 5th level of the divine ability, the celestial realm, were called divine lords. Those above the golden core were called God Kings. The longevity mystic realm was called the God Emperor. Those who survived the immortal world's thunder punishment and cultivated to the 9th level of the longevity realm, the false immortal, were called divine lords. As for those who achieved the immortal karmic rank, like Fang Qingshan, they were called God Emperors. The God Race was a great enemy of the universe. They were basically invincible in the same realm. In order to ensure that nothing went wrong, the God Race actually sent a void immortal and dozens of God Emperors. The 8 people behind Divinity Dezhai, in particular, had powerful backgrounds. In the God Race, they were known as the 24 Heavens, and all of them were at the Chaos Whole Realm. When Fang Qingshan arrived, Fang Han and Mi Bao were surrounded by the God Race. Fortunately, Fang Han was good at pretending to be weak. The God Race's attention was on Mi Bao, so he was fine. As for Mi Bao, he was an outstanding talent of the 9 Clear Supreme faction. Although he was very powerful, he was still in a disadvantageous position in the face of a celestial race's void immortal and 8 chaotic hole experts. Furthermore, one of them was caught off guard, while the other had been planning for a long time. As time passed, the situation became more precarious. Chapter 504. The 9 Clear Supreme sect was a famous sect in the celestial world. Their celestial techniques were second to none. Mi Bao, as the proud son of heaven of the 9 Clear Supreme sect, was indeed worthy of her reputation. She was able to fight well against the divine lord of the celestial race and 8 chaotic whole realm god emperors, especially when she used the 9 Clear Great Immortal technique. 9 types of 3,000 great Daos gathered into immortal astral energy and transformed into 9 shadows. It was similar to the Great Change Sect's Yi-Dao transformation, 8 gods fusion, and Fang Qingshan's one-breath Sanqing. Her cultivation had also reached the peak of the hollow immortal stage and was about to comprehend the laws of life and death. Unfortunately, in the end, he had fallen into the enemy's ambush. Not only had he fallen into the enemy's trap, he had even been poisoned by the God Clan's Heavenly King powder. Legend had it that only Heavenly Concubine Wu Mo could refine the Heavenly King powder. Even if a hollow immortal was poisoned, the poison would seep into their soul, and they would be doomed eternally. Puffed. Mi Bao vomited a mouthful of blood. The blood was black and smelly. It corroded a large pit when it landed on the ground. Just smelling it would make one dizzy. Her face was pale, and her hair was disheveled. After being poisoned, Mi Bao was hit by Divine Lord Dezhai's ancestral sacred fist. Blessings never came in pairs, but misfortunes never came alone. Fortunately, Fang Han exploded. He first used the Great Poison Technique to alleviate the poison of the Heavenly King powder. Then, he fought Divine Lord Dejai alone. Although Fong Han's cultivation was not at the World King realm, his combat strength was astonishing. Coupled with the various peerless Tao artifacts, the 8-section pagoda, the mortal life seal, the Yellow Springs diagram, and so on, he could barely fight against an ordinary hollow immortal. Unfortunately, Divine Lord Dejai was not an ordinary hollow immortal. He was a celestial race hollow immortal and was invincible among his peers. Moreover, he was not at the early stage of the hollow immortal stage. Like Mi Bao, he was already at the peak of the hollow immortal stage and almost comprehended the laws of life and death. Then, tragedy struck him. Every time he clashed with Divine Lord Dejai, his body, grotto heaven, and even his magic treasures were a huge burden. As time passed, it became unbearable. His internal organs nearly flipped over, and every inch of his flesh felt like it was being pierced by needles. As for the various supreme Grey Tao artifacts, their brilliance was dim and their restrictions were broken. If not for the fact that their quality was pretty good, there might even be cracks on them. Fortunately, Fong Han still had the World Tree, which provided him with an endless supply of dermic powers to repair his body. Otherwise, he would have died within a few moves. Even so, when Divine Master Dezai unleashed his ultimate technique, the 3 strikes of martial Tao, he had no choice but to sacrifice more than 4 billion heavenly demons to barely withstand it. However, he was only able to withstand a single blow. He had no more strength left. Heaven and earth began to decline, take advantage of his weakness, and kill him. Especially since Fong Han had the World Tree, the nemesis of the Protoss, he naturally had to get rid of him. Seeing that he had no more strength to resist, Dezai Divine Master continued to attack. He followed up the first move of the world-shaking 3 moves with the second move, the Decay of the Great Tao. Lu Ding and Liujia, protect the common people forever. Exalted Sword, destroy the void. At this moment, Mi Bao made his move. Using Fong Han's Great Poison Technique, she managed to suppress the Heavenly King Death powder in her body. She knew that it was not the time to make a move. Otherwise, the seal would be broken and the poison would spread. However, she could not just watch Fong Han die. If anything happened to Fong Han, she would not be any better off. Now, she and Fong Han were bound together for good or ill. Therefore, she used her trump card right from the start. A man who looked like cold jade formed behind her. Countless suns, moons, and stars revolved around him. His eyes were indifferent, like Hong Jun Tiandao. He waved the sharp sword in his hand, severing his emotions and forgetting his emotions. A sword light that was surrounded by green light burst forth. The light was cold and shattered everything in its path. The shadow was the supreme existence of the celestial world. It was the projection of the highest heavenly lord, an invincible heavenly lord. The sword light was the 9 pure heavenly sects' secret technique, the sword of the highest heavenly lord. Crack! With a tearing sound, Divine Venerable Dejai's heaven and earth decay was torn apart. Moreover, the sword light continued to slash towards Divine Venerable Dejai. Good. Mi Bao, good 9 clear supreme sect. Divine Venerable Dejai was so angry that he laughed. He did not expect that his meticulous plan would not be able to take down Mi Bao easily. Now, Mi Bao had used her ultimate move and forced him into a corner. He no longer hesitated and directly used the last move of the 3 world-shaking moves, Eternal Nirvana. As soon as the move was unleashed, Divine Venerate Dejai's aura rose endlessly. The 8 divine emperors around him were forced to retreat. If Mi Bao hadn't used the Grand Supreme Technique to be emotionless and unfeeling, he would probably have been afraid. Divine Venerable Dejai had shattered 6 billion Sky Fiends with this punch. It was not inferior to the Sky Fiends that Fong Han had sacrificed. Its power was simply invincible. Even perfected immortals had to avoid it. Mi Bao was already seriously injured, and he was poisoned. His strength was less than 70% of his peak. As for the sword of the highest heavenly sect, it had first broken the sword of the highest heavenly sect, and it had consumed a portion of its power. Faced with divine venerable Jai's eternal nirvana, it was directly destroyed in one move. It also charged towards me, Bao, and Fong Han with an overwhelming force. He wanted to finish off both of them with a single move. Could it be that I, Fong Han / me, Bao, will die here today? The two of them fell to the ground and looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with indignation. Unfortunately, one of them had a low cultivation level and might have some tricks up his sleeves. The other had been tricked long ago. He was seriously injured and poisoned. They could only sit and wait for their deaths without any strength to fight back. In the blink of an eye, Fong Han and me, Bao, were about to die under divine, venerable Jai's eternal nirvana. At that moment, a figure materialized in front of the two of them. In the heavens, the 5 elements are the foundation, and the 5 elements are the source. Those who obtain the 5 elements will be eternally free in all space-time. A majestic voice resounded through the sky. Under the feet of a newcomer, a huge chessboard instantly took shape. It was scattered all over the place, and each step he took was like a game of chess. It was dazzling. The attack of the eternal nirvana was like a flood that had opened the floodgates. It was like the Milky Way falling from the 9 heavens. It was like the wheel of history, rolling over and crushing everything. However, when it came to the chessboard, it was tilted and moved into the infinite void. It could not hurt the people on the chessboard at all, let alone me, Bao, and Fong Han who were behind the chessboard. Linglong Grand, Luo Heaven. Both me, Bao, and Divine Venerable Jai exclaimed when they saw this divine power. However, it did not seem like it. Who are you? What's your relationship with Venerable Linglong? Divine Venerable Jai asked. Fong Han's eyes lit up, and he heaved a sigh of relief. Third young master. Chapter 505. Yes, it was Fong Qingshan. Of course, what he had just used wasn't the sprightly grand, overarching heaven. Instead, he had used the all-heavens chessboard as its core and the Taoist magic of the 5 elements as its foundation. That was the all-heavens 5 elements chess, which he had created himself. Divine Master Desai's eternal nirvana was something that even a perfected immortal had to avoid. Otherwise, it would be easy for him to fail miserably. However, this magical power had been weakened by me, Bao's zenith sword, and was no longer at its peak state. Even if it was at its peak state, what could it do to Fong Qingshan? After all, he was not a perfected immortal, but an earth immortal who had surpassed perfected immortals. He could already ascend to the heavens, and even the immortal world would send down immortal light to guide him. Third young master. Hearing Fong Han's voice, Divine Master Desai immediately realized who Fong Qingshan was and couldn't help but tremble. In the entire world, there was only one person that Fong Han could call third young master, and that was Fong Qingshan. The god race, the 3,000 worlds, the common enemy of all living beings. Basically, they were invincible, and invincible. In addition to their own powerful combat strength, they also relied on knowing themselves and their enemies to emerge victorious in every battle. Fong Han and Fong Qingshan were influential figures in the black-yellow great world. How could the god race not know about them? However, it was because they knew about them that it was even more shocking. There was no need to mention Fong Han. Although he was only at the Empyrean realm and hadn't even reached the World King realm, his combat strength was amazing. He could even break through the barrier between immortal and mortal. Even if he wasn't a match for an ordinary hollow immortal, no one could stop him if he wanted to leave. It was even to the extent that if they fought with their lives on the line, they might even be able to cause heavy injuries to both sides, and it was even possible for them to kill a void immortal. Fong Han was already surprising enough, but Fong Qingshan's appearance had refreshed his view of the world. Although he didn't know Fong Qingshan's specific cultivation level, Divine Master Desai could feel the aura of the Thunder Tribulation and Immortal Chi from him. This meant that Fong Qingshan's strength was at least that of a hollow immortal. In a short period of a few years, he'd advanced from the paradise realm to the void immortal realm, and even the god race that was richly endowed by nature couldn't help but be extremely shocked, envious, and hateful. Also, take note that he had only become a pseudo-immortal. De Zhai's divine venerable Yuan Shun sensed that Fang Qingshan gave him the feeling that he was facing a divine emperor of the celestial race. How is this possible? Although De Zai, God Venerable, roared in disbelief, he knew that it shouldn't be fake. The path of utmost sincerity can foresee. When one cultivated to a certain level, one would be able to sense danger and avoid it. As a hollow immortal of the celestial race, divinity De Zai naturally had the ability to do so. When he first saw Fang Qingshan, he seemed to be an ordinary person, but when he looked at him again, he seemed to be a natural enemy. His next thought was to escape. It turns out to be the first deputy sect master of Emergent Sect, Fang Qingshan, Daoist has arrived. Apologies. De Zai, God Venerable, forced a smile and bowed to Fang Qingshan in a slightly reserved manner. From today onwards, I'm no longer the deputy sect master of Emergent Sect. I'm not even a true disciple anymore. It's not just me. Everyone in the Fang family has withdrawn from Emergent Sect. Fang Qingshan said lightly. Third young master, why is that? Fang Han was stunned for a moment and asked quickly. It's easy to add flowers to a brocade, but it's hard to provide timely help. He briefly told Fang Han about what happened in Emergent Sect. Fang Han's eyes suddenly flashed with a cold light. He was not a person who repaid evil with good. During his growth, Emergent Sect did not help him much and even made things difficult for him. Now that something like this had happened, with Fang Han's temper, he would definitely return the favor. Mi Bao and De Zai, God Venerable, were shocked when they heard that Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit and Xian Wuqing had died in the hands of Fang Qingshan and did not even have a chance to escape. They naturally knew what kind of people Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit and Xian Wuqing were. One was a senior member of the Great Change Sect, and the other was a patriarch of the Sacred Light Great World, the Sacred Light Empire, and the Xian family. Both were not ordinary people. Even if they were not as powerful as Mi Bao and De Zai, God Venerable, they were not far behind. If it was a one-on-one fight, it would not be difficult for the two of them to defeat them. However, if they wanted to leave, they would not be able to stop them. Not even a perfected immortal could do that. However, Fang Qingshan had killed them. Didn't this mean that his strength was above that of a perfected immortal? Mi Bao and De Zai, God Venerable, could not help but gasp at this thought. De Zai, God Venerable, knew that he could not stay here any longer. He did not even care about the other deity emperors and celestial race warriors in the 24 heavens. He just gave him a look and turned to leave. Where are you going, Divine Venerable? Unfortunately, he had injured Fang Han, in addition to his own value. How could Fang Qingshan let him go? Just as De Zai, God Venerable, moved, Fang Qingshan's voice rang in his ear. De Zai, God Venerable's body stiffened. However, in a split second, he did not retreat. Instead, he attacked Fang Han and Mi Bao with his strongest attack. He knew that it would not be easy to escape from an expert like Fang Qingshan. Didn't Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit and Xian Wuqing not escape? Therefore, he wanted to besiege Wei to rescue the besieged, creating a diversion. Of course, he was also gambling that Fang Qingshan would save Fang Han. What if he lost? That was his fate. He could not blame others. But if he won, he could fight for a chance of survival. All heavens, 8 true kings, Dishi Hongjun Tiandao, secret tome of creation, De Zai, God Venerable, roared. Whoosh! Divine Emperor Gumu, Purple Moon Divine Emperor, and the rest of the 8 Divine Emperors all flew up. Their bodies exploded and turned into words and divine chi that swept toward Fang Han. Then, De Zai, God Venerable, turned around and fled, regardless of the result. Child's play. Seeing this, Fang Qingshan could not help but shake his head. Swoosh! A dazzling brilliance shone, causing people to involuntarily close their eyes. Vaguely, they saw a thin thread of silver light. With a ripping sound, it was like a piece of cloth being cut. Whatever words, divine aura, scriptures, they were all swept away by the faintly discernible silver threads. Then, the figures of the 8 divine emperors appeared. With a thud, they fell to the ground and split into 2 halves. This was Fang Qingshan's breakthrough after comprehending the one sword gives birth. Sword thread. It was not an ordinary sword thread, but the 10,000 arts. This was also why the ordinary-looking sword had been able to cause the 8 chaotic whole realm divine emperors to bleed and chase after divine venerate Dazai, without losing any momentum. Chapter 506. No, although Dazai, divine venerable god, was focused on escaping, he was also very alert and vigilant. The 8 god emperors didn't even have time to scream before they died on the spot. But Divine Master Dazai immediately knew. He didn't even need to look back. An extreme sense of danger shot through the air. His hair stood on end, and his skin hurt. Blood could be seen. It was as if his heart had been hit by a hammer. Divine protection, shouted the Divine Lord of Dazai. Boundless holy light shone from his body. It was bright, holy, and magnificent. It was like the light of heaven, shining down on everything. Even after using the protection divine art, Divine Master Dazai still didn't feel safe. Then, a series of Dharma treasures flew out of his body. Some hovered above his head, some wrapped around his body, and some were thrown at the sword chi behind him. The god race was indeed blessed by the heavens. Looking at the Dharma treasures he had thrown out, Divine Master Dazai had 2 peerless Tao artifacts, 5 superior-grade Tao artifacts, and dozens of middle-grade and low-grade Tao artifacts. It was no wonder that the god race could conquer so many great worlds. Even the Xuanhuan Great World, the Buddha Realm, and the Dragon Realm couldn't compare to them. But it was useless. One sword creates 10,000 techniques. 10,000 referred to immeasurable and magnificent. It was the 3 begets all things. On the other hand, training the sword into a thread, fusing all techniques into a thread, although it hadn't reached the stage of returning to the origin and recreating the origin, it had been condensed to the extreme. When the power was used on a single point, using a single point to break through the surface, it would naturally be as easy as pulling dry weeds and pulling up mountains. However, a series of crackling sounds could be heard. All the Tao artifacts Divine Master Dazai threw out to block the sword thread, regardless of whether they were inferior grade, medial grade, superior grade, or even peerless Tao artifacts, were like tofu. They shattered upon contact. It was no different from not blocking the sword thread at all. It was comparable to the Great Protection technique. It was the same with the Divine Protection Light. After saying so much in the blink of an eye, Divine Master Dazai followed in the footsteps of the 8 god emperors. Seeing this, both Fang Han and Mi Bao were dumbfounded. One had to know that 15 minutes ago, the divinity of Dazai had forced him into a hopeless situation. Who would have thought that in an instant, the bead curtain would roll back and the offensive and defensive positions would change? At first, he heard Fang Qingshan say that Celestial Venerable Heavenly Circuit and Xian Wuqing had died in his hands, and that they did not even have the chance to escape. Whether it was Mi Bao, the Divine Lord of Dazai, or Fang Han, although they did not think that Fang Qingshan was lying, they still thought that he had put in a lot of effort. However, not only did the great Jai Divine Lord flee at the sight of the wind, he even used a defensive celestial technique and a peerless Tao artifact. Yet he still couldn't take Fang Qingshan's casual slash. It was just too terrifying. Sigh, 3rd young master is ahead of me again. Fortunately, Fang Han was used to being defeated by Fang Qingshan and had always been fighting for him. So he quickly accepted this fact. At the same time, his fighting spirit rose. He was not someone who would admit defeat. Fang Qingshan could improve so quickly and reach this level. Fang Han believed that he would be able to reach this level sooner or later, so he was sincerely happy. After all, he and Fang Qingshan were on the same side. The more powerful Fang Qingshan was, the more powerful he would be. Mi Bao, on the other hand, was conflicted. She had rejected the wolf at the front door, but the tiger came from the back door. Although Divine Lord of Desire had been sent away, Fang Qingshan had also saved her life. However, she had the Misty token, so how could she not have any thoughts, especially when Fang Han had already received the news? Fang Qingshan's cultivation was so high. If she did not hand it over, she was afraid that she would be in danger. After all, in the face of 7 prefectures, 3 treasuries, and a hidden treasury, anyone would be tempted. It should be known that the Misty Treasury was the first secret treasury left behind by the Misty Immortal when he ascended to the Heaven Realm. It was known as the first of the 3 treasuries in the Black-Yellow Great World. It was 10 times more precious than the treasuries left behind by the Panwu Immortal and the Emperor of the Netherworld. Since it was called the Misty Treasury, as the name suggested, it had no fixed location, just like the 3 immortal islands of the World of Desolation. Without special means or tokens, it could not be sensed at all. Mi Bao had only sensed the appearance of the treasury in the endless snowfield because she had obtained the Misty token. She had rushed over, but she did not expect to fall into the trap of the Shun clan. Putting all this aside, the Misty Immortal was an ancient figure, even before the 3 ancient emperors. He was on the same level as the primordial Taoist and the reincarnation Taoist. He was only inferior to the primordial Taoist and was even stronger than the reincarnation Taoist. It was even rumored that he was in charge of the World Tree. If he had not disappeared inexplicably before the calamity of the Shun clan, it was unknown whether the ancestor of the Shun clan could have cut off the World Tree. It should be known that when the World Tree was at its peak, it was probably no less than an immortal king. The Misty Immortal was only slightly inferior to the primordial Taoist, who was also ranked at the top of the Eternal Immortal King list. From this, it could be seen that the Misty Immortal was also a powerful immortal king. And if he combined with the World Tree 2 immortal kings, the power would not be as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. It would be an increase of 3, 4, or even 10. Even in the eternal immortal world, a treasure trove left behind by an immortal king was enough to attract people like a flock of ducks. Moreover, it was different from the primordial Taoist's primordial treasure. The primordial treasure was just something that the primordial Taoist refined with treasures that he did not use. And the Misty Treasury was rumored to still preserve some of the divine items that were spat out from the gate of eternal life at the beginning of this era. Just like the ball of primordial Qi that Fang Qingshan obtained from the key of the Desolate God. That was a divine item that had existed since the beginning of the era. It had infinite Taoist charm, and its power was immeasurable. Not to mention, this was the end of the era when the Deva's decay was about to arrive and the twilight of the gods was about to arrive. Even at the beginning of the era, it was extremely precious. Even the heavenly lords would covet it and fight over it. Since that was the case, it was no wonder that Mi Bao was worried about gains and losses. But if she handed over the Misty token, not to mention whether Fang Qingshan would give her a share, even if Fang Qingshan was magnanimous, he would probably eat the meat, and she would only be able to drink the soup. It was clearly her own opportunity, but in the end, it had become a wedding dress for others. How can Mi Bao be willing to accept this? For a moment, her expression changed like a Sichuan opera face changing. Moreover, Fang Qingshan had taken care of the 8 Shan Wang and the Divine Lord of Desire. Naturally, he would also take care of the rest of the Celestials. One should know that his World Tree loved to feed on the flesh and blood of the Celestials. If the World Tree devoured so many Celestials, not only would it obtain a batch of treasures, such as the longevity fruit, but it would also speed up the growth of the World Tree. It would probably grow faster than watering it with the 9 solar holy water. But then, Fang Qingshan gently waved his sleeve, and the stars moved, as if there was a universe in his sleeve. In an instant, all the Celestials were sucked into the Khanate small world. Chapter 507. Fang Han, what do you plan to do next? After Fang Qingshan had absorbed hundreds of millions of Protoss into the innate small world, he did not even need to do anything. He didn't even need to make a move. The World Tree began to riot. Countless roots and branches stretched out and lashed out. In a breath's time, all the Protoss exploded into powder. Their blood essence evaporated, and their bones turned into mush. Then they were all swallowed by the World Tree and turned into fertilizer to nourish it. For a moment, the World Tree shone brightly, and heavenly music rang out. The entire innate small world seemed to have benefited a lot. Countless Hongjun Tiandao rhymes appear to celebrate the World Tree and the world. Under the World Tree, Mosquito Dauran was trapped. Because of his torment, the restriction had loosened a little. Now, with the strengthening of the World Tree, the restriction power instantly strengthened and stabilized. Fang Qingshan could not help but breathe a sigh of relief when he saw this. Good heavens, this Mosquito Dauran was indeed a fierce person above the four evils of desolation. If not for the fact that the World Tree had swallowed hundreds of millions of Protoss this time, he would not have discovered that the restriction had loosened. Once he broke free from the restriction, he would be able to escape. Fang Qingshan shuddered at the thought of it. He thought of the goddess of turtle spirit and the 12th grade Golden Lotus. Fang Qingshan felt that the most important thing now was to get rid of this ticking time bomb. Otherwise, if something happened and this hidden danger broke out again, it would really be a matter of no return. Hearing Fang Qingshan ask about Fang Han, Mi Bao's heart was instantly in her throat. Unfortunately, she was just gauging the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain. Not only did Fang Qingshan not mention the Misty token, but Fang Han also did not mention it. Fang Qingshan did not mention the Misty token. It was not that he looked down on this treasure vault. After all, it was left behind by the Misty Immortal. It seemed to be above the Hongmeng treasure vault. Although Fang Qingshan had many primordial spiritual treasures, an immortal king's treasure vault was right in front of him. If there was a chance, no one would let it go. The reason why he did not mention it was because there were priorities. As previously said, his top priority now was to find a place to cultivate in seclusion and then get rid of Mosquito Dauran. In addition, the god race had appeared here, which meant that they had most likely set their eyes on the Misty Treasury. Fang Qingshan was already standing at the pinnacle of the 3,000 Great Worlds. In the ordinary Great Worlds, he could be considered an invincible existence in the top 10 Great Worlds. But places like the Dragon Realm, the Buddha Realm, and the Void God Realm had heavenly lords, especially the Void God Realm. It was not the time to fight with the Protoss. It was not the time to have the Protoss. Furthermore, since there were so many treasures in the Misty Treasury, the corresponding danger factor would naturally increase by several folds. Most importantly, the Misty Treasure Vault seemed to be on track. Even during the great calamity of the Xianhuang Great World, it had not appeared. This made Fang Qingshan think about it more. If he worked hard for a while, and in the end, all his efforts were in vain, wouldn't it be a loss that outweighed the gain? As such, Fang Qingshan did not mention the Misty token to Mi Bao at all. What about Fang Han? However, it was because she felt guilty towards Mi Bao. After all, she had lied to her, and Mi Bao had treated her sincerely. Therefore, when she did not bring it up herself, Fang Han did not take the initiative to bring it up. I originally wanted to return to the emergent sect, but Fang Han shrugged. I don't know where to go right now. In that case, let's go back to the Li dynasty first. I think you haven't been back since you left there. Seeing this, Fang Qingshan made the decision. All right. Fang Han had no objections to this. Eldest Miss, what about you? Fang Han turned around and asked. Me? Mi Bao was stunned for a moment and said subconsciously, now that I've been targeted by the Shan clan and I'm injured, I'd better return to the treasure-snatching rock for closed-door training. Although it was dangerous this time, it's not like I didn't gain anything. I think the next time we meet, I'll have broken through. In that case, congratulations in advance. Fang Han smiled. We'll meet again in the mountains and rivers. We'll meet again someday. With that, Fang Qingshan took Fang Han's conveyance light and flew towards the Li dynasty. At this moment, Mi Bao was completely relieved. Then she laughed at herself, thinking that she had made a mountain out of a molehill. However, this was human nature. It was not good or bad. Mi Bao was just a little emotional. After all, Fong Han's cultivation was lower than hers, but his combat strength was almost catching up. As for Fong Qingshan, he was so young that she could not see his depth. Taking a deep breath, Mi Bao calmed his mind. Moving his feet, he quickly left this place. After all, there had been such a big commotion that all the experts in the black-yellow great world had probably sensed it. Moreover, the Shun clan had lost a divine tribe member, 1/3 of the 24 divine emperors, and hundreds of millions of divine tribe members. They would not let it go easily. This was already a troublesome place, so they could not stay for long. Sure enough, not long after Fong Qingshan, Fong Han and Mi Bao left. There were men and women, monks, Taoists, demons, and immortals from all over the world. Some of them had high cultivation levels, but even the weakest among them was at least in the Grotto Heaven realm. They would be the mainstay of a large sect. Then, the experts of the Protoss also rushed over. The divine tribe had lost an ultimate god, 1/3 of the 24 heavens, and hundreds of millions of soldiers before the great calamity had even begun. At that moment, the invasion war would have begun immediately, if not for some unfinished preparations. Even so, the Shin clan who came to investigate the matter had a riot with the black-yellow Great World cultivators who came to the Hui River for fishing. The celestial race was simply venting the anger in their hearts. As for these people from the observation group, they were purely caught in the crossfire and suffered on behalf of Fong Qingshan and the others. In the end, if it were not for the Great One sect and Venerable Ling Long, as well as the divine tribe's heavenly concubine, it would have been a fuse even if both sides were not ready for war. Putting that aside for the time being, when Fong Qingshan returned to the Li dynasty, Longyuan province, Wanxiang Garden, he found that things were still the same, but the people had changed. Fong Zeshan and Fong Zitao were old, and their cultivation levels had not broken through to the divine secret realm. They were very happy to see Fong Qingshan and Fong Han's sudden return. They were very concerned about their well-being and kept themselves busy. Fong Qingshan was a little touched and could not help but sigh when he saw that. Whether it was himself or Fong Qingxue, Fong Qingwei seemed to have gone too far. Therefore, when Fong Han was recuperating in seclusion, Fong Qingshan did not immediately go into seclusion. Instead, he took some time to recuperate Fong Zeshan and Fong Zitao's bodies with elixirs and help them break through to the divine secret realm. To Fong Qingshan, this was as easy as lifting a finger. But to Fong Zeshan, Fong Zitao was as excited as a child because he was defying the heavens and changing his destiny. Chapter 508. Innate Small World. A series of roars resounded, and the whole world seemed to be shaking. The sound of mosquitoes dancing around was even more devilish. Waves of terrifying energy waves visible to the naked eye soared into the sky, and a turbid sea of blood turned the whole world blood-red. Whether it was the Xiantian Hongjun Tiandao charm of the innate small world or the heavenly sound rune of the world tree, they were constantly flashing, imprisoning the sea of blood in the center. However, it couldn't be extinguished at all. Although this scarlet blood qi looked illusory, if an ordinary person smelled it, their blood would immediately boil and they would explode. This showed the domineering majesty of the sea of blood. Fortunately, Fong Qingshan's inner world was an innate small world, and there was a spiritual root like the world tree to suppress it. Otherwise, even if it was another world, even if it was Venerable Ling Long or an ordinary immortal world, they would not be able to suppress this murderer. Boy, you actually dared to suppress the old ancestor. In addition to Mingi, you are the second person. Hee, when the old ancestor is free, I will definitely treat you well. I won't let you down. Hee, the innate small world and the ancient Jinmu, haha, they will all belong to the old ancestor in the future. A raging laughter resounded through the sky, lingering in the ears of Fong Qingshan and others. Although Fong Qingshan's expression was ugly for Mosquito Doran's unscrupulousness, it was not beyond his expectation. After Fong Zeshan, Fong Zitao, and others changed their muscles and marrow. They were reborn and broke through the divine secret realm. Fang Qingshan also made up for the guilt in his heart and cut off a trace of karma. Then he transferred the group of Fang family disciples out of the Dinghai Pearl and handed them over to Fang Zeshan and Fang Zitao to deal with. Like Fang Han, he began to deal with the hidden dangers in seclusion. Although there was the Tao law of the innate small world and the roots of the world tree, it obviously could not completely restrain him. From time to time, he would struggle and the whole world would shake. If Fang Qingshan did not care about it, perhaps in less than a year, Mosquito Dowrin would be able to break free. Although he was seriously injured and his magic treasure was taken away by Fang Qingshan, the most important thing was still his mouth. However, the most important thing to him was still his mouthpiece. With it, he could make a comeback. Previously, Fang Qingshan found that the seal had loosened because he had swallowed the Tao law of the innate small world and the world tree. He was seriously injured and was in a state of the seal. Of ancestor, if he was at his peak and there were no restrictions, no one would be able to punish him other than the sages. No, Mingi could. After all, they were of the same origin and were naturally suppressed. However, once he grew up, even if he didn't surpass or rival the Netherworld River, as long as he narrowed the gap between them to a certain limit, the Netherworld River wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Taoist one, it seems like you still don't understand the situation you're in right now. Fang Qingshan sneered. If you were at your peak, I wouldn't have dared to provoke you. Unfortunately, you shouldn't have been so arrogant as to provoke a saint. Although the saint didn't kill you in one move, it gave me a chance. Gave you a chance? Ha ha ha. Mosquito Dowrin threw his head back and laughed, as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. So what if I'm heavily injured? Unless you have a primordial cardinal treasure, don't even think about imprisoning the patriarch. With your cultivation, it's wishful thinking to completely kill the patriarch. It's just a matter of time before the patriarch breaks free. Really? Fang Qingshan smiled. Your mouth is formidable indeed, to the extent that it can even devour a 12-stage lotus platform. Unfortunately, you're heavily injured, yet you still have the ability to do so. As for cultivation, that is indeed my weakness. However, you must know that cultivation is not equivalent to combat power. Otherwise, everyone would just see whose cultivation is higher and who is stronger. What do you mean? A hint of confusion flashed in Mosquito Doran's eyes. Clearly, he did not understand Fang Qingshan's words. What do you mean? Fang Qingshan chuckled. That's what I mean. As soon as he said that, Fang Qingshan flicked his hand and a scroll flew out. Whoosh! Rumble! The sound of the river roaring and the waves surging into the sky could be heard. Following that, the scroll was unfurled. Although it was not as gorgeous as the Taiji painting, it was surrounded by thousands of rays of light and auspicious colors. However, 9 yellow dragons coiled around it. There was a chilly wind inside, and a black fog filled the air, obscuring the sun and moon. The 9-turn yellow river painting. That item was the combination of Fang Qingshan's original 9-turn yellow river painting and Yun Zhao's 9-turn yellow river array. It was smelted by the heavenly lord of primordial beginning and given to Fang Qingshan as a gift. That item formed a world of its own and contained the 9-turn yellow river array. Once the painting was unfurled, the 9-turn yellow river array would be formed. There was no need to practice like when Yun Xiao set up the array formation. For a moment, the connate small world seemed to have become the netherworld. The sea of blood rose on one side and the river on the other. A tragic aura soared into the sky and a haze covered the ground. What is this? Although Mosquito Dowrin did not know the reputation of the 9-turn yellow river array, he also felt the threat from it. He finally retracted his raging expression and asked cautiously, "What is it?" Fang Qingshan said calmly, "The evil yellow river array is based on the 3 talents, and all immortals will suffer from this tribulation. There is creation hidden in the 9 bins, and there is wind and thunder hidden in the 3 bays. The cultivators of the Lang Garden were cursed. who would have formed a holy fetus on the Tao Spirit platform. After encountering the main sect, I realized that the unorthodox path could not be reconciled. This array formation is called the Nine-Turn Yellow River Array. It contains the wonders of heaven and earth. There is the immortal bewitching pill and the immortal seclusion mantra. It can lose the spirit of an immortal, vanish the spirit of an immortal, trap the form of an immortal, damage the aura of an immortal, lose the original body of an immortal, and damage the limbs of an immortal. Immortals will become mortals when they enter it, and mortals will die when they enter it. There is no straight in the 9 bends. The bends contain the wonders of creation and the secrets of immortals. Even the saints of the 3 sects will not be able to escape from this. At this point, Fang Qingshan paused and continued. This array formation is not inferior to the protective array formation of the Blood Sea at all. Mosquito Dowrin could not help but scoff. Although he felt threatened by the array formation, he really did not believe that it could be compared to a top-notch array formation like the Blood Sea array. You don't believe me? Then let me tell you another piece of news. Seeing this, Fang Qingshan was not annoyed. Not long ago, Yin Xiao of the Jie School used this array formation to capture the 12 golden immortals of the Chan School. He eliminated the 3 flowers above his head and destroyed the 5 qi in his chest. You should know that they are all disciples of the saints. Among them, Guang Qingzi has reached the peak of the late stage of the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. He has a postnatal treasure and many connate spiritual treasures. At this point, Mosquito Dorn's expression finally changed. If the power of the 9-turn Yellow River Array was really as Fang Qingshan said, he was afraid that he would really be in danger. In particular, this array formation could actually reduce the cultivation of others. It was simply unheard of. Although the array formation is good, how much of it can you exert with your cultivation? Mosquito Dowrin was a little stubborn. Chapter 509. Really? Seeing this, Fang Qingshan did not refute, but just said lightly, whether it can work or not, we will know the effect after we try it. Taoist, don't worry. As he said, Fang Qingshan pressed hard, and the formation map fell, merged with heaven and earth, and rolled Mosquito Dowrin into it. If not now, when? Following this, Fang Qingshan did not perform a hand seal to activate the formation. Instead, he shouted into the sky, "How dare I not come when young master summons me?" As soon as the voice fell, Qiong Qi, devouring heaven demon emperor, star sovereign, Fan Qingying, and others came out of the void. They were not the only ones. Following closely behind them, hundreds of thousands of living beings revealed themselves. Although the cultivation of these people was only at the longevity secret realm, grotto heaven realm. However, when there were 10,000 people, it was a sea of people. The atmosphere was like 10,000 immortals coming to pay their respects. Of course, the Jie School's immortals were real immortals. Except for Qiong Qi, only the devouring heaven demon emperor was an immortal. This group of people, of course, were not people but living creatures. When Fang Qingshan obtained the Tianwu treasure house, obtained the key of Desolate God, and opened the 3rd floor, he obtained hundreds of thousands of magic weapons. The weakest was a low-grade Dao weapon, and the most powerful Red Jade sword had even entered the ranks of the Peerless rank because it was refined by Qiong Qi. The magic weapons of the immortal world were unique. They all had artifact spirits. When Fang Qingshan opened the treasure house, these artifact spirits still gathered together to resist. Unfortunately, the arm could not twist the thigh, and finally, in the face of the suppression of Fang Qingshan and Qiong Qi, they surrendered. These hundreds of thousands of creatures were the artifact spirits of those Dao weapons. After being enlightened by Fang Qingshan, they have been concentrating on cultivation, while praying for Fang Qingshan, providing wish power. This time, Fang Qingshan's cultivation was not enough, so he pulled them over and operated the 9 bends Yellow River formation together. Back then, when Yin Xiao didn't know about the formation, he had borrowed a few hundred soldiers from Wenzhong. Fang Qingshan believed that with the help of these hundreds of thousands of artifact spirits, the devouring heaven demon emperor, Xiongqi, and the others, it should be more than enough to deal with Mosquito Daoran, even though he didn't have Yunxiao's cultivation, Array Dao Realm, or the primordial chaos golden chalice. After all, Mosquito Daoran was now, like a dragon in shallow water, being toyed with by a shrimp. A fallen phoenix was no better than a chicken. Moreover, in terms of cultivation, even perfected Yellow Dragon, the weakest of the 12 golden immortals at Chan School, was stronger than Mosquito Daoran. Therefore, Fang Qingshan was very confident. Do it. Under Fang Qingshan's guidance, the Qiongqi, the heaven-devouring devil emperor, and the 100,000 Dao artifact spirits took their positions. Following Fang Qingshan's order, they formed a seal at the same time. In an instant, hundreds of thousands of spells were formed. Spiritual light fell like rain, and symbols were like an ocean. On the other hand, Fang Qingshan stood in the middle of the array formation, controlling and guiding. Fang Qingshan knew that be it his cultivation or array formation realm, he could not be compared to Yun Xiao. Furthermore, he was still lacking the primordial chaos golden chalice. Therefore, he fused the array diagram with the connate small world and used the world tree to suppress the array formation. That way, he could strengthen his control of the 9 bins Yellow River array. That was not all. Fang Qingshan even imitated the 10 absolute desolate array in the 9 bins Yellow River array and set up an altar to perform witchcraft. Since Fang Qingshan broke the desolate array, the array diagram of the desolate array naturally fell into his hands. Although he did not fully comprehend the desolate array, he learned some of the witchcraft techniques. After all, in the desolate array, the Zhu mirror was activated, and he knew the Great Curse technique. Later on, when Taoist Lu Yi used the 7 Arrows book to worship Zhao Gongming, Fang Qingshan also obtained it from Jiang Zia and studied it. He knew that even without the primordial chaos golden chalice, the 9 bins Yellow River array could also eliminate one's 3 flowers and 5 qi. However, the effects would not be as immediate. Fang Qingshan did not have the primordial chaos golden chalice, and his cultivation level was not enough to open the array formation to its maximum. Although he looked down on Mosquito Daoran previously, it was only because he looked down on the enemy strategically. Of course, if he was willing to rely on his skills, it would not be impossible. However, he was a little afraid of Mosquito Daoran's mouth. Just as Mosquito Daoran had said, he could not be trapped without a connate cardinal treasure. If he relied on his skills to deal with him, Fang Qingshan did not know if it would be faster for him to reduce his cultivation level or for him to recover his strength. Therefore, he had to think of another way. Thus, there's this altar. Fang Qingshan used the Great Curse technique of a mortal world as the basis, combined with some unorthodox methods in the first chapter of Hishachi Shu, and then used the Luo Pare and the 7 Arrows book for reference. He set up this altar and borrowed the power of the array formation, which should have a miraculous effect. However, Fang Qingshan waved the Zhu mirror in his hand and bowed to Mosquito Daoran from afar. I curse you to relapse and fall in realm. I curse you to have no fate with the great Tao and sink into eternal oblivion. I curse you to have no defense and your soul is naked. I curse you to have your 3 flowers and 5 qi destroyed. The voice of the curse seemed to come from before the primordial world, and it could cause the immortals to fall, the world to decay, the heavens to decline, and the great Tao to no longer exist. Mosquito Daoran was born from the origin of the Blood Sea, and the Blood Sea originally carried all kinds of filth. However, in the face of this curse, it seems that it is not enough to look at. However, a little bit of black spots began to appear in the pure source of magical power, and the original ice skin and jade bones, the golden immortal body, also began to show the color of dead gray, and even the soul was entangled with black gas. The whole person seemed to have reached the dusk of the heavens, the end of the era, and the 5 decaying of heaven and man. Along with the curse, Naturally, the Nine Yellow River Formation was launched. The Nine Yellow River, 10,000 sand, the waves from the end of the world. Now, it went straight to the Milky Way, to the morning glory and the Weaver Girl's house. The turbid waves filled the air, and the yellow sand swept. It was as if the four seas were overturned and the Samadhi wind was blowing. When this water touched, it was pervasive and could destroy the 5 chi in the chest. When the wind blew, it ignored the defense and could eliminate the 3 flowers on the top. At the same time, hundreds of thousands of people attacked together. The weakest had the realm of heaven and earth Dharma idol, and the strongest was an earth immortal, comparable to a celestial immortal. For a time, only to see the wind and sand swept, forming a tornado funnel. With a gentle turn, a trace of the magical power in Mosquito Dorn's body was stripped away. This tornado funnel was naturally the shadow imprint of the primordial chaos golden chalice that was activated. Although it is not comparable to the main body, it also increased the strength of the weakening and accelerated the weakening process. Although Mosquito Dowren had heard Feng Qingshan mention the power of the Nine Yellow River Formation previously, he already knew that something was wrong. However, he still underestimated the power of this formation. Although Feng Qingshan did not have Yun Zhao's cultivation and array formation realm, he did not have the primordial chaos golden chalice. However, Mosquito Dowren was also not one of the 12 golden immortals of Chan School. Not to mention that he did not have a treasure with him. He was also seriously injured, and it was not easy to take a blow from a saint. Although Mosquito Dorn's mouth is heaven-defying, it is not omnipotent, especially when his origin is injured, and he can only use 10 to 20% of his power. Chapter 510. Damn it, this is impossible. Mosquito Dowren did not expect that after being trapped in the blood sea for most of his life, he would have thought that he was a tiger that had escaped its cage and a dragon that had been trapped in it. However, he did not expect to die. Because in a moment of greed, he swallowed the treasure of the sage, but he was unable to digest it. The gains did not make up for the losses. As a result, he was heavily injured by the sage. What angered him the most was that when the sandpiper and the clam fought, not only did the treasures that he had risked his life to obtain fall into Feng Qingshan's hands, but he was also imprisoned and became a fish on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. Most importantly, Feng Qingshan was only an earth immortal. Even Mosquito Dowren, who had not yet left the blood sea, could kill such a guy, let alone now. At first, Mosquito Dowren was furious when he fell into Feng Qingshan's hands, but he was not worried. After all, compared to falling into the sage's hands, falling into Feng Qingshan's hands was nothing. He could also take this opportunity to see if he could escape from the sage's pursuit. However, things did not go as he had imagined, even though his wishful thinking had worked out perfectly. Although he did not have any innate cardinal treasures, he was suppressed under the innate small world and the builder tree because of his serious injuries. Just when he was about to quietly heal his injuries and restore his strength, the builder tree's strength suddenly increased, revealing its strength and ability. Mosquito Dowren was not too worried about this. His mouth parts could bite through a 12th grade golden lotus, so no one could imprison him without an innate cardinal treasure. On the other hand, Feng Qingshan's cultivation base was only at the earth immortal level. It was wishful thinking for him to kill a half-step primordial immortal like him. After all, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. However, what Mosquito Dowren did not expect was that Feng Qingshan was also proficient in formations. That wasn't all, but he didn't expect his formation to be so powerful. As a result, the speed at which he swallowed the formation's source through his mouthpiece could not keep up with the formation's weakening of his strength. The most important reason for this scene was that Mosquito Dowren had been heavily injured after being guided here. Otherwise, if he was not injured, the devouring ability and defense-breaking ability of a mere mystic immortal, or even a true immortal or heaven immortal, would be far beyond what he had now, let alone the cultivation base of a primordial immortal. The other one was Fang Qingshan, who had used the great curse art to coordinate everything. He had used the Zhuwu mirror to cast the curse art, supported by hundreds of thousands of people, and maintain the spell formation. The power of the curse was naturally unstoppable. Of course, the most important thing was that it lowered his fate, hindered his recovery from his injuries, and weakened his strength. He needed to use a portion of his strength to suppress the curse. In addition, the formation had the effect of eliminating the 3 flowers and the 5 cheese, which was why Mosquito Dowrin was so frightened. "Kid, how dare you treat me like this? When I get out, I'll burn you into the sky lantern and make you unable to reincarnate forever. Brat, you'd better quickly remove the formation and kneel down to be bound. If I'm in a good mood, I might spare your little life. Kid, are you really going to put up a resistance?" In the beginning, Mosquito Dowrin was still putting on a strong front, but cowardly on the inside. Unfortunately, Fang Qingshan did not fall for it all. He just kept on casting the curse art and operating the formation. When Mosquito Dowrin saw that his source of power was getting lesser and his body and soul were getting weaker, the speed and efficiency of his mouthpiece's devouring were also getting worse. Finally, Mosquito Dowrin panicked and begged for mercy. "Taoist, the heavens are merciful. Please let me go. Taoist, as long as you let me go, I can help you fight for the control of the Blood Sea. As long as the Blood Sea doesn't dry up, Mingi won't die. Taoist, as long as you don't kill me, I'm willing to do anything for you." Mosquito Dowrin's words were full of temptation. Unfortunately, Fang Qingshan turned his nose up at it. "The heavens are merciful? Then why didn't you think about this at that time, when you devoured the Holy Mother of Turtle Spirit and destroyed her body and soul, so that she couldn't even enter reincarnation? As for fighting for the control of the Blood Sea, it was wishful thinking and a fantasy. If Mingi was so easy to deal with, the Buddhists would not have been so helpless against him. After all, there were Asuras among the 8 groups of spiritual beings in Buddhism. Ksitigarbha even swore that he would not become a Buddha until hell was empty. Moreover, the Red Lotus Hellfire in Mingi's hands had been coveted by Zhuinti and his brother for a long time. However, it was useless. Mingi was still alive and well. He was still a giant, and his power shocked the world. He was willing to be a slave, but Fang Qingshan was not. Didn't he see that Fang Qingshan used a killing move as soon as he attacked? He didn't use the great salvation skill at all to summon him to surrender. The reason for this was that Fang Qingshan knew that it was useless to just talk to a fierce person like one Taoist if he didn't beat him up. Moreover, Fang Qingshan knew his own limitations. Although he had the all-heaven chessboard and could be considered as a god's favored one, compared to Taoist one who was born and raised by the heavens and was blessed by the heavens, there was a huge gap between them. This was because, unlike Qiongqi, his mouth was too powerful. As long as he had enough resources, he could rise rapidly without any bottlenecks. He would even have no problem breaking through to the perfected golden immortal realm. Not to mention the perfected golden immortal realm. Fang Qingshan had not even touched the threshold of a sage-to-be, zenith heaven, or even a golden immortal. Even if such a person was enlightened, once his cultivation increased, there would be a backlash. For Fang Qingshan, a dead Mosquito Dowrin was the best Mosquito Dowrin. Therefore, he did not waste time talking nonsense with Mosquito Dowrin and directly killed him. Seeing that Fang Qingshan was not moved by force or persuasion, Mosquito Dowrin was at a loss. As time went by, the longer it dragged on, the more disadvantageous it would be for him. Mosquito Dowrin knew that he could only fight with his life on the line. I, Mosquito Dowrin, want to take back the Blood Sea, destroy the river Styx, become a sage, and stand above the heavens. How can I fall here, ah? A shrill roar shook the sky and reverberated in the world. In the space of the formation, it stirred up waves of energy. Following that, countless blood-colored mosquitoes flew over, reflecting the sun and pouncing towards the living beings in the array formation. Many people were caught off guard and were instantly sucked dry. Damn it! Seeing this, Fang Qingshan was enraged and spat out a mouthful of blood essence. The power of the formation instantly increased by a level. The Golden Dipper tornado condensed a little and rotated gently, sucking in all the mosquitoes. Then it rotated again and killed the mosquitoes, turning them into the source of the formation. This completely cut off Mosquito Doran's way of recovering his strength through this method. Chapter 511. 81 days later. Fang Qingshan's connate small world let out a muffled grunt, as if unable to bear the burden, but also as if it heaved a sigh of relief. Looking at the world tree, it was completely dispirited. Its leaves were no longer green, but slightly yellow. As for the spirit vein in the center, it was almost exhausted. The last time something like this had happened was when Fang Qingshan had forcefully used the Tai Chi diagram. The people in the Yellow River Formation weren't having a good time either. Fang Qingshan had to control the curse and the formation. Fortunately, he had the clone technique and used the one-spirit Sanqing mystique. On top of that, his cultivation level was the weakest, so he wasn't too bad. As for the others, such as Qiongqi and the Devouring Sky Demon Emperor, their faces were all pale, their eyes sunken, and they looked like they had lost their spirit. However, they weren't the worst off. The worst off were the Dao artifact spirits. Some were devoured by Mosquito Doran's desperate attempt to reverse the situation and were swallowed by mosquitoes like the Blood God. Some of them died of exhaustion from operating the formation. Even those who survived were all severely injured. They were spiritual bodies, and now they were so illusory that it seemed like they would scatter in the wind. Even so, it was worth it to pay such a huge price, because Mosquito Doran's cultivation level was finally reduced by Fang Qingshan's Yellow River Formation. Then, he used the Curse Technique and the Soul Attack Technique to kill him. He even used the Fate Technique and Escape Technique to completely erase Mosquito Doran's mark in the world. From then on, there would be no more Mosquito Doran in the world. And the reason why Fang Qingshan made such a big move, apart from fearing a resurgence, was that he coveted Mosquito Doran's body. Of course, he wasn't a pervert, and he didn't have any fetish for corpses. He was purely amazed by Mosquito Doran's potential mouthparts. He was prepared to cultivate it into a second primordial spirit, like the world tree. All right, I'll have to rely on you all this time. Fang Qingshan heaved a sigh of relief and kept the Yellow River of 9 Bends with a shake of his hand. He stood up and bowed towards the Qiongqi, the heaven-devouring Devil Emperor, and the other artifact spirits. Even though these people had all been converted by him, Fang Qingshan would still give them the respect they deserved. Especially since they had risked their lives for him, he couldn't treat them lightly. Young master, don't say that. I'll go through fire and water for you without hesitation. Seeing this, Qiongqi and the others hurriedly moved away. Everyone, don't worry. I can see all of your efforts. I'm sorry that so many Taoists died because of this. Fang Qingshan said generously. How about this? From today onwards, I will open up my treasury. If any one of you has any use for it, feel free to take it. It will count as a merit. Thank you, young master. Even though everyone had been converted by Fang Qingshan, they hadn't forgotten about their cultivation. Hearing this, their eyes lit up, especially Qiongqi. After all, he was only injured and had fallen in cultivation like the 12 golden immortals of the Chan sect. As long as he had resources, he could easily recover to the golden immortal level. And the reason why Fang Qingshan was so generous this time, and even allowed everyone to increase their strength without restraint, was partly because of the merit, but a bigger reason was because of his confidence. With food in hand, he wouldn't panic. With confidence, he naturally wouldn't be afraid of Qiongqi and the others biting back. And all of this was because he was already an earthly immortal and his combat strength was close to that of a perfected immortal. He also had the power of the Yellow River of 9 Bends. Without needing others, he could set up this array formation by himself. Anyone below the golden immortal level wouldn't be able to return. If he used so many people like this time, he could even take down a golden immortal. Of course, the most important thing was still Mosquito Dowrin, who was about to be refined into a second primordial spirit. With Mosquito Dowrin, would he be afraid that someone would surpass him in cultivation? This was simply nonsense. Xiongqi could recover all the way to the golden immortal level as long as he had enough resources. But he would only be a golden immortal. As long as Mosquito Dowrin had enough resources, it wouldn't be a problem for him to become a perfected golden immortal, let alone a perfected golden immortal. As for resources, did Fang Qingshan lack them? Not to mention the tens of thousands of artifact spirits that had fallen this time, and the tens of thousands of Dao weapons left behind. Just the pile of Khanate numinous treasures alone could allow Mosquito Dowrin to soar to the sky if he swallowed any one of them. Of course, Fang Qingshan wouldn't be so reckless and wasteful. But with this confidence, he could create a decisive expert at any time. This was where his real confidence came from. Of course, apart from this aspect, there was also the saying, a fence needs 3 stakes, and a good man needs 3 helpers. Just like this time, if Fang Qingshan hadn't had the help of tens of thousands of artifact spirits, it wouldn't have been so easy to destroy Mosquito Dowrin, and the price he would have to pay would have been even greater. Besides, these people had been enlightened by him. As long as he didn't worry about the backlash, the higher their cultivation, the more power of wish and the light of providence they could provide for him. Just like sages, their cultivation could be said to have truly stood at the peak of the vast thousand worlds. The world decayed, but they didn't, and the sun and moon perished, but they didn't. Yet, they still spared no effort to pass down their orthodoxies and expand the sect. What do they mean? One was the inheritance, and the other was the light of providence. Now that Fang Qingshan had Mosquito Dowrin as his avatar, he naturally wasn't afraid of the backlash from Xiongqi and the others. Therefore, the higher the cultivation of these believers, the better it was for Fang Qingshan. Fang Qingshan sent Xiongqi and the others away. Apart from the gourd of 7 transformations golden pills that the great Taoist master Xian Du had given him, some peerless immortal pills and the key of the desolate god, and the Khanate numinous treasures and spiritual objects, they could take whatever they wanted. As for Fang Qingshan, he brought Mosquito Dowrin's body to the Bodhi tree. First, he took an immortal pill to restore his body to its best state. Then, he began to separate his primordial spirit and refine Mosquito Dowrin into his second primordial spirit. Fang Qingshan had many methods to refine a second primordial spirit, such as the mysterious book of Isha, the true solution of Xian Pin, and the heavenly book of intercourse. Even Xian Wuqing, who he had killed previously, had similar methods. However, with a supreme treasure like Mosquito Dowrin, it would be a waste to use ordinary methods. Even the mysterious book of Isha was not enough for Fang Qingshan. Fortunately, he was considered a person with a background now. He had become a disciple of the heavenly lord of Tao and virtue and obtained the Tai Ching immortal technique. It was a combination of the direct inheritance of Pangu and the great Tao of Hongjun. It could be said to be a top-notch existence in the universe. Unfortunately, Fang Qingshan had not read it properly after obtaining it. In order to refine the perfect clone of Mosquito Dowrin, Fang Qingshan had to put in a lot of effort. He sat under the Bodhi tree and held the Bodhi seed in his hand. He manifested the mystical ability of the One Qi Sanqing and even summoned the clone of the World Tree. The few of them comprehended the mysteries of refining the Tai Ching immortal technique together. Chapter 512. The Bodhi tree was also known as the Tao Comprehension Tree and the Bodhi Seed. Not only was it a metal-type treasure, but it was also a Tao Comprehension treasure. In particular, the Bodhi tree and the Bodhi Seed were the second generation of the 10 top-grade Khanate spirit roots of desolation. If not for the fact that Fang Qingshan had the sea-calming divine pearl, Randang would have been determined to obtain it. If not for the fact that Randang was one of the 3 Buddhas of the Buddhist sect in the future and had an important role to the Buddhist sect. It was wishful thinking for Fang Qingshan to want to obtain these 2 items. After all, the Western Buddhist sect lacked treasures to begin with. Without great contributions and opportunities, there was no need to covet such treasures. Fang Qingshan was a proud son of heaven. His comprehension was astonishing, and the world tree avatar was even better. In addition to the grand pure one immortal technique, the great Tao was mysterious and top-notch. With the few stacked together, Fang Qingshan instantly fell into a state of Tao comprehension. For a moment, he could not think of anything, and his mind wandered. He heard the celestial voice and wonderful words. He did not know where they came from or where they went. It seemed to be clear and right beside his ears, but also seemed blurry and far away. It was as if he had obtained something, but it seemed to be hanging on the antelope's horn and nowhere to be found. At the same time, the heavenly chessboard flew out on its own and circled around. Luck rose and fell like the tide, rising and falling, life and death uncertain. The dense purplish-green mist made Fang Qingshan look even more dignified. The chess pieces came and went with a slow rhythm. Thousands and thousands of seal scripts fell from the sky and combined freely, turning into scriptures. They formed a real form and were chanted and recited. In the end, a faint shadow appeared, forming an old Taoist priest with white hair and youthful face. He held a horsetail whisk in his hand and sat cross-legged on a meditation cushion. He opened his mouth silently and spat out lotus flowers. Red, white, and green, the three colors intertwined, as if he was in a sea of lotus flowers. The fragrance floated, and it was warm. Fang Qingshan's main goal this time was to comprehend a superior second essence soul technique. Therefore, during this period of enlightenment, his second primordial spirit naturally gained the most enlightenment. Fang Qingshan's eyes were half closed, half open, and half open. The 3 feet of spiritual light shone brightly between his eyebrows. Behind his head were 5-element halos, and above his head were auspicious clouds that illuminated the universe. It was really mysterious and wonderful. At a certain moment, as if the conditions were right, and as if it was the will of heaven, the sword of heavens flew out and slashed at the Yuan Shun from afar. His primordial spirit was split into 2, the destiny on the heavenly chessboard, the life force on the world tree, the Bodhi tree, the Bodhi seed, and so on. Thousands of chi activities intertwined and gathered together like water ripples. They spread out in circles and enveloped the 2 halves of his primordial spirit. It was warm, smooth, nourishing, and enjoyable. It seemed to specialize in softness like a baby. There was an indescribable mystery to it. The separation of the origin soul was no less than a heavy injury to the host, and in severe cases, it could even harm the host's origin. However, to Fang Qingshan, he had the exquisite Dharma spells that he comprehended from the Tai Ching celestial technique. He was also in the Tao comprehension realm, and he also had the world tree's life force and providence. It could be said that heaven and earth were on his side. The refinement of the second origin soul, this time, was much smoother than the refinement of the second origin soul with the world tree. Not long after, the 2 halves of the origin soul were restored, as if they were originally 2 independent bodies. The larger part was naturally the main origin soul, which was left in the Niwen Palace. The smaller part flew out of his consciousness and entered the glabella of Mosquito Doran. Mosquito Doran's soul had long been erased by Fang Qingshan using the 9-turn Yellow River formation. Now it was just an empty bag. Once the origin soul entered it, it was instantly controlled. Mosquito Doran's soul was gone, and naturally, his memories did not exist, let alone the inheritance. Although that was the case, Fang Qingshan did not feel sad at all. To Fang Qingshan, it was naturally good to have the memories of Mosquito Doran's inheritance, but he would not be sad even if he did not have it. To him, the most important thing for Mosquito Doran was his innate mystical ability, the mouthpiece. It would not disappear with the dissipation of the soul. It was a bloodline mystical ability, as long as he had it. So what if he did not have the memories? Mosquito Doran did not need to comprehend Hongjun Tiandao to improve his cultivation level. As long as he continued to devour, his cultivation level would improve by leaps and bounds. My Tao is complete. Since the second essence soul was formed, Fang Qingshan retreated from the state of Tao enlightenment. If it were any other time, Fang Qingshan might have felt regretful. After all, the feeling of wandering the great Tao was so comfortable that he could moan for a long time. However, at that moment, Fang Qingshan could not care less about that. When he saw Mosquito Daorin and sensed the perception from his second essence soul, Fang Qingshan could not suppress the excitement in his heart. He raised his head and roared into the sky. His voice was like the cry of a phoenix in the 9 heavens and a dragon roar. At that moment, Fang Qingshan finally had a personal understanding of how Taoist Randang felt when he obtained the sea-calming divine pearl. With Mosquito Daorin's clone, Fang Qingshan could be said to have half a foot in the peak of the major Kiliacosm. Fang Qingshan believed that he would reach the saints sooner or later. After all, Mosquito Daorin was different from immortals, Buddhists, and demons. He was even different from the Wu people. However, he was like one that escaped and found a loophole in Hongjun Tiandao. Regardless of whether it was immortal cultivation, Buddhism, demons, fiends, ghosts, or even witchcraft and martial arts, they all needed to be comprehended. It was just that the method of comprehension was different. Immortals and Buddhists comprehended Hongjun Tiandao, while witchcraft and martial arts comprehended qi and blood. However, no matter which one it was, they would comprehend the great Tao and the nomological laws at the end of their cultivation. Mosquito Daorin was different. He did not need to comprehend anything and only needed to devour. Although the resources he consumed were 10 times or even 100 times more than those of the elites, as long as he had enough resources, he would not have any bottlenecks. However, as long as he had enough resources, he would not face any bottlenecks. It was the same for Tao proving. As long as he could cultivate to the pinnacle of the quasi-sage realm and devour a connate cardinal treasure, he would be able to reach the primordial chaos realm. The reason Fang Qingshan felt that he would reach the primordial chaos realm sooner or later was that he had long set his sights on a connate cardinal treasure. Fang Qingshan thinks that the immortal world's gate of immortal life is an innate treasure. Of course, it didn't matter even if it wasn't. The heavens were so vast, and Fang Qingshan didn't believe that all the connate cardinal treasures were in the hands of sages and primordial chaos immortals. As long as he found one, he would be able to reach primordial chaos smoothly. However, it was still too early to say these things. At that moment, Fang Qingshan couldn't wait to transfer all the resources from his collection to Mosquito Daorin. Of course, he would not make the mistake of Mosquito Daorin and advance rashly. Moreover, he was reluctant to give the connate spiritual treasure to Mosquito Daorin to devour. In addition, Mosquito Daorin now had no cultivation at all. Even if he was given a connate spiritual treasure, he did not know how long it would take for him to completely devour it. Fortunately, Fang Qingshan still had sufficient other resources. Apart from other things, just the remaining 10,000 Tao artifacts that Mosquito Daorin had devoured by Mosquito Daorin of the 9-turn Yellow River Array would be enough for Mosquito Daorin to support him for a while. For a while, Mosquito Daorin did not refuse anything. Whether it was Dharma treasures, materials, spirit chi, or spirit medicine, he devoured them all. Naturally, his cultivation increased at a speed visible to the naked eye. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.